Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the regular Board of Trustees meeting for February 24th, 2026. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Karsbeck.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy.
Here.
Trustee Wing.
Here.
Trustee Hardy.
Yes.
Trustee Brody.
Here.
Trustee Ayers.
Here.
Trustee Albrecht.
Here.
Excellent. Next on our agenda is citizen participation. This is a chance for anyone in the audience tonight to speak to something that is not on tonight's agenda. If we have anyone signed up, if you could please come to the front, state your name, and please keep your comments to 3 or less. All right. Well, we have no one signed up, so do that. We'll move on now to consent. Would trustees like anything removed from consent? Otherwise, is there a motion to combine and approve?
Motion to combine and approve consent.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Trustee Wing has moved on consent. Trustee Albrecht has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Wing.
Yes.
Trustee Hardy.
Yes.
Trustee Ayers.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht.
Yes.
Trustee Brody.
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. All right, next on our agenda is something rare, very rare, that we have in the audience tonight. And I'll bring up Chief Sergeant Williamson here to present to it. But we have a local citizen who received the Laramie County Sheriff's Star Citizen Award, and we wanted to acknowledge her for them.
Good evening. If we could have Scott and Alexis Cameron join us here at the front, please. Deputy Mosley. You just want to stand up here by the board. You want to give those to them on this. Good evening. We're here this evening to award the Sheriff Star Award to Alexis and Scott Cameron. The award is given by the sheriff to a citizen for taking action that benefits the community. On September 19th, 2025, Deputy Mosley and school staff were alerted to a student that had made concerning statements to a friend. The student left the school during school hours and went to her home. Deputy Mosley went to the student's home where he tried to make contact with the student but was unable to do so. The neighbors, Alexis and Scott Cameron, offered their assistance and were able to gain access to the home, where the student was found and saved from harm due to their quick thinking and the concern from the Camerons, Deputy Mosley, and the school staff. Without Deputy Mosley and the Camerons' actions that day, this would have been a different outcome. We'd like to present Alexis and Scott Cameron the Sheriff's Star for their actions on September 19th, 2025. Thank you. I'd also like to share with you that Deputy Mosley was presented with the Life-Saving Award in our award ceremony in January for his involvement in the incident.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you for what you guys did and really bringing an honor to this community by doing that. So thank you. Okay. Next, item number 3 is the Hometown Heroes banner program concept. And to introduce this, we have Chris Cook. Sorry.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Karsbeck.
Oh,
I want to recuse myself from this one.
Oh, sure.
sounds good.
Thank you, Mayor Karsbeck and trustees. I'll just go ahead and turn it over to Derek Guzman and his team here to talk about the program. This is something we've met and chatted a little bit about, and so they have a presentation for you tonight.
Yeah. Tough act to follow. So what we're here to talk about, and thank you, by the way, everyone, for having us today. What we want to talk about is a new program that we'd like to start with the town. It's called the Berthoud Hometown Heroes Program. And so through this, to have control here, if you've ever been down a town where they have members of their community that had served in the military or currently serve in the military, they have a great picture of them, they have their name, their rank, their service. That's what we're envisioning for Berthoud. Basically, what would happen is the applicants, and they can be any relation to a service member, current or former, and they would apply through the town. They would pay for the banner, and then the town put the banners up along the Berthoud owned light poles. So there's a little restriction there on how many light poles we have, but basically the people who are affiliated with the members would apply. The town would administer it and put the banners up. We've really tried to make this the least amount of administratively burdensome on the town and on the applicants. We feel that the applicant will pay for the banner, and we feel by that way these people are going to be serious about who we're putting up on the light poles. So we're not going to be asking for a lot of background information. It's a very simple process. We're envisioning that we can do this all online. They can fill out an application online, they can pay online, and then the rest of the process will follow through. We're looking to do this in around April of every year. This will be an annual thing, but it will not roll over annually. So once somebody applies and pays, that banner will be put up from roughly Memorial Day through roughly Veterans Day. No hard dates, but roughly there. And then in the next year, they will have to reapply and pay for it again. Now, in order to incentivize the folks to renew every year, there will be a period of time where only renewal applications are accepted, and then after that it will be back open to anybody until all the light poles are filled. Okay, so what I've got here is basically what I've already talked through. Is the applicants can be any affiliation with a service member. Basically, they just need to apply. They don't need to live here. We're not going to make it overly restrictive. Again, we're trying to make this as administratively unburdensome as possible, and just go through the process that I mentioned. I think I got the map right. This is a little bit of a PowerPoint art of where roughly the banners would go.
Beautiful.
So along Mountain Avenue, along Town Park. Okay, so there we go. Roughly 29. We've also thought we're looking at some options. If we get more than 29, maybe we can do double-sided on one light pole. We don't know. We want to get this kicked off first and see what the response is and get it going, and then figure out if there's any nuances that we need to tweak from there. So. We're not asking for any money from the town of Berthoud. We're really saying help us administer the process, help us get them up. The applicants will pay for them. And then at the end of the year, they come down, and then the process starts all over next year. We did bring a sample here for those of you that can see it. This banner here is a little bit wider than what would be on the light poles. It's also a little bit longer. But if you can envision this style of banner, and also some of the pictures that we put up here, because other towns do this, this is kind of what we're envisioning. And so what we're asking for today is move to the next step of the process, which is to work with the town administration, get into the details of how will this work, set up the website, set up the payment system, and then come back and say, all right, we're ready to go, and we'd like to get this started. Obviously, with this being the 250th birthday of the United States, this is a great year for us to get this into the town before 4th of July. So we're really motivated to do this. All of our veterans organizations have participated in laying out the process, and we're really hoping to get this started. We do have, you probably already know this, but we already have a source for where the banners come from, and we can get the payment set up. And he already has experience with this, doing this with another town. So we hope that we can just replicate that here for Berthoud.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Trustees, any questions?
Just too quick.
Trustee Wing.
Yeah.
How do they hold up in the weather?
We're not sure. I mean, it's going to come with hardware, so they're gonna get battered around. So if they do get weather, if the town sees one that is too weathered, we will bring it down. But we do have banners up now for both of our honorees, for our American Legion and for our veterans of foreign wars. We do have to replace those from time to time, but we don't think from a period of just Memorial Day to Veterans Day that they would get damaged in that period of time. Okay. But there again, we're going to have to monitor the process and see how it goes.
And if I can add to that, this is one of the banners that's at the roundabout, Justin Bauer, and then Gabe Condi is also up there. And this banner lasts about a year to a year and a half before we have to have it reprinted. And we've also started looking at the hardware that these are hung up at the roundabout. We think we can get better hardware to where in the wind it would be a little better and it could last longer.
Right.
Yeah.
My second question is, and I'm a little embarrassed I don't even know this. Do we have a monument or memorial to veterans?
Nothing.
No,
No.
it was
Not currently, no.
proposed for the cemetery upgrade.
And that's
Yeah.
what actually the meeting with these guys started was
But
kind
we
of about
don't. We
that.
don't have anything right now.
Not yet, no.
Then
We're working on
I
that
don't
too.
need to ask my further
More to
question
come.
then. Okay.
Yeah.
We feel supportive. Any comments, Trustee Torselli?
Are we entering a contract with someone to print these, or is it just?
Currently, a local print shop who you all know well, Left Hand Print Works, has printed these banners for us that go at the roundabout. They could print the future banners, but we'd likely do a solicitation just to make sure that if we're buying 30 of them, we're probably talking about $6,000 to $10,000 worth of printing costs, depending on what those look like. So I would suggest that I appreciate what Derek said. I think it's a good idea. If the board is supportive of the program, we can work out those final details and bring you a complete budget. I think I have a pretty solid idea of how much they cost. It would be up to the town board if you want to charge a fee for an application. I would suggest that it not be the total cost of the banners because they are a little bit more expensive. But this is a great program the town could help to fund.
Understand him saying that the town does not bear a financial liability to this?
No, we envision that for the applicant to pay for the cost of the banner.
And I think that's totally appropriate. I think if the board is so inclined, we could also help cover some of that cost. So that would be ultimately up to you guys.
So by the time that came back to us, maybe that would be the options.
That would be the goal.
Yeah,
yeah.
thanks.
And we'd have a
Give us cost.
good formal program with that cost. We assumed that the board would be generally supportive of the idea, but wanted to make sure that you guys were on board before we went and put it all on paper for you to hopefully approve.
Y'all supportive?
Yeah,
Yeah,
just a couple
absolutely.
of comments. It'd be great if the families who pay for it get to keep or be notified when they come down.
Yeah.
They would.
And keep those banners.
That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then for propriety, having a local business supporting them first is always awesome. But just making sure we have a process that it's fair and open to other businesses that want to pay for banners or be part of that process, just so we have that appearance of propriety. And then, and I was also thinking about our branding for future years. For this year, getting it up for the 250th anniversary is perfect. I absolutely love this idea. But maybe for future years, we can include the updated branding and logos for Town of Berthoud prominently on those banners as well. So there's some, amazing, congruity in town.
Okay.
You might want my suggestions.
That's great. Awesome. Excellent.
Okay.
Can I just add one
Yes,
thing?
absolutely.
Just so the board's aware, Derek didn't do this intentionally, but if the golf cart thing ever becomes in front of the board again, this map also is where golf carts aren't allowed, so we could share this with you. It's coming back around.
It's not
sometime.
copywritten or anything? All right, cool.
That's going to come.
Maybe I should trademark it first.
We're just trying to help out, Mayor.
Dang it, man. All right.
Yes,
Look at
yeah.
it right there.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I look forward to coming back when we have the fuller proposal together with the administration.
Awesome. Oh, you got a library too.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Look forward to see you guys back. Thanks for reaching out. It's exciting. Okay. Along the line of presentations, we have Chris Freeman here with America in Bloom. Mr. Freeman. Hello, welcome. Mr. Freeman reached out to us via email and had some pictures, and the board, through our policy, had at least three interested in this. So, yeah, very well. Thank you for coming in and showing us about this.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I have an exciting opportunity for Berthoud, a program called America in Bloom. And this is really about bringing us together as a community to make Berthoud an even more appealing place to live, work, and play. And it's really about community. I mean, we have all of the elements and more that can go into America in Bloom already alive and well here in Berthoud, but this gives a cohesive platform to get more community involvement with volunteers from the community, town government, and local business owners. And it's really about beautification and just taking our community to a whole new level. And we would join over 350 America in Bloom communities around North America. And, this is just a great way to get everybody pulling in the same direction. It's not a very controversial topic. It's something that everybody can get behind, but it gives us something positive to rally around and, just really pull together to make our town as good as it can be. So the way it works, if we choose to join, we would get 2 advisors that would come and spend a couple of days with our town government and perhaps some interested volunteers, and they'll look at everything that we have going on here, and then they'll give us a comprehensive report on recommendations, and then it's really up to us to choose which direction we pursue. It's really a an ongoing effort. It's not something you do one year and say, okay, we checked that off the list. We did America in Bloom. It really has a built-in continuous improvement process, and we can go at whatever pace we choose. But these are professionals from the horticulture industry, landscape designers, professional gardeners, estate curators, people like that really have experience in designing beautiful spaces outdoors. And we would be eligible for recognition via awards as well. They give away a lot of awards every year to participating communities. As I mentioned, we have all of these elements in place already. Just to give you some ideas, we've got the gorgeous containers on Mountain Avenue in the summer, but we can do more. You can always do more. That's what I like about these types of programs, and there's really no end to the creativity that can be employed in these efforts. And I think we can all surprise ourselves at where we end up 5 years from now. And when you get the community involved, we have a lot of artists here. Just the creative ideas that come through bringing people together in a common effort just can give us something that we don't have today. Public spaces outdoors. I think of the Northern Water site and all the gorgeous parks that we have. And the nice thing is by joining America in Bloom, we get to network with all the other communities around the country that are doing this. And so we can benchmark the best ideas that we hear about and see how that might be implemented right here in town. My family and I moved here a little bit over 10 years ago from Longmont, and one of the things that really appealed to us about Berthoud is the vibrant urban forest that we have. And this really fits in with the new arboretum that's in the works. We have a great urban forest program here, and just another way to get people from the community involved in volunteer efforts to steward those resources that we've been entrusted with. Ties in well with Berthoud as a Tree City USA. We already have that designation here, and many of the America in Bloom communities do as well. And there's a lot of environmental stewardship initiatives that we can tie in to America in Bloom, and there's just a lot of flexibility about how do we want it to look for Berthoud. But it's interesting when you look around the country at what some of the different communities have done, protecting the waterways, protecting pollinators, and it's just all part of being good stewards of the great town that we all get to be a part of. And community really is what this is about. It is beautification. It is all about flowers, which are near and dear to my heart, but it's really about the people, bringing the people and the plants and the whole community together around it. I do have a handout on the table, the sign-in table, if anybody wants more details. There's a lot more behind this, but I want to keep it big picture here. And we get to celebrate our heritage, involve our great museum. It just unifies so many things that we have going on here. And when you look at communities that have implemented this. It's really about first impressions. What does somebody feel when they step into Berthoud for the first time? I have some before and afters here that you can see of communities with varying degrees of beautification efforts, some pretty minimal, and then where they've ended up. So I mentioned awards, and there's an annual symposium where they bring together America in Bloom communities, and it's a few days of tours and education and networking with other communities around the country, and what are they doing to beautify their spaces. And I mentioned awards. Right? So this is Castle Rock, Washington, that is, before and after. In some ways it reminds me of Berthoud today. You've got some nice flower containers out on the sidewalks in front of the storefronts. So that's the first year that they got involved, and look where they are today. What a transformation from it was nice before, but it's got that wow factor now. This is Ottawa, Illinois. Now this is a contrast. If you look at the before on the left, they had that one sad, dead container on the sidewalk out in front of a shop, and what they've done with the just the curb appeal, if you will, of this village is remarkable. Just look at how inviting those storefronts are with what they've created there. They had a kind of a clean slate to work with. There was nowhere to go but up for them in the beautification department. But it's really nice what they've achieved there. So we've got a leg up already. We've got a beautiful town. So just imagine where this can take us. We've got the gorgeous containers on Mountain Avenue. We've got the cute shops with a floral focus. We have wonderful community gardens. And we have our agricultural heritage to tie in with it all. So I like to envision, what will it feel like when somebody comes to Berthoud for the very first time and they say, wow, I can see why this is called the garden spot, a place where good things grow. It'll just be so obvious to anybody that comes through. Like, of course, this is the garden spot. So you can see in the Mountain West, we are pretty sparse with America in Bloom communities. Right, the closest town to us is Estes Park that is participating. But the communities that embrace this, they love it, and it is transforming towns across America. It beautifies the spaces, it brings people together for a common purpose. And that's it in a nutshell. I can take questions if anybody has them.
Wonderful presentation. Thank you. Trustees, any questions? Trustee Wing?
So you design things, but do you do the actual work? Do you plant? Do you water? Do you maintain? I wasn't clear on that.
Yes, sir. So this is a community effort. So it involves volunteers, especially volunteers, and it could involve other resources, local businesses that we've got some garden centers in the area that would probably embrace an effort like this. But
So do you facilitate that with the volunteers and the businesses?
So it's really up to us as a team. So we would bring in the America in Bloom staff that would evaluate and give us their recommendations, and they would sit down with the people from government that are most interested and would like to get involved, and then it's really, there's nothing set in stone. It's not, I don't have anything to gain other than to make this an even more gorgeous town to live in.
We have a forestry department, right? And they take care of trees, and we do have flowers, so it would seem this would have to work hand in hand with them, because they're already doing a number of these things. Is that what you do?
Yes, sir.
You work with municipalities with their forestry departments?
Absolutely. That's really what it all boils down to, is bringing everybody together.
And holistically across the country, is this a for-profit business? Is there a parent company to this?
It's a nonprofit.
Okay.
What was the cost of the advisors then to come in? Or how does that work?
So that would be included in us joining. If we can maintain our population at 10,000 or less, it's $1,700.
We're above that now. Do you know what it is now?
I can let you know. It's just a little bit more. I think, if I remember right, it was still under 2,000
Annually?
annually. Yes.
Not parentally.
Not perennially.
Is this a public space only project, or can individuals get advice from the program as well? Specifically, we just had a presentation about, what was it? I wrote it down.
Tree strips.
SB 224-005 about tree strips and the limitations that have been put on unusable turf, and with the understanding of like xeriscape and beautification. So if you're working with the town just specifically on public spaces to make possibly those public spaces move into communities, is that something that is possible based on the individual homeowners if they want to get your services or get your advice for tree lawns or front yards or that sort of thing?
It's really more for the community and the town government, but I really have to check with them to see how deep they get into the actual community. Certainly we want the community involved, and it starts at home, so if everybody can do their own little part, that goes even further. But let me check on that, and I'll get back to you. Yeah, welcome.
Other questions? We have a great Main Street program starting up here. I can't speak for them, but maybe there's some interest with the downtown businesses. Certainly, we are the garden spot, and we just trying to launch our branding now we did the studies and whatnot. So I think it's a great time. I don't want to speak ahead of the other trustees, though.
I was thinking with the Main Street program, they could probably get a grant.
Help out with that 2,000.
Yeah. Great.
Do you have some comments?
Yes, please go ahead.
I just feel like where has this been for a few years? Like, we needed the floral addition, especially to the treescaping and landscaping. All of it together is what we need in Berthoud, especially downtown. And like you said, when people are passing through. So thank you. And it's like it takes a village. So ideas coming forward and people are willing to maybe spearhead and help kind of instigate the change and keep this ball rolling. So please, I just encourage you to keep this top of mind and keep asking questions and bringing this to us. I think it's a small ask and a small investment that would make a major impact to visitor and tourism attraction, as well as just people delighting in their community. And the domino effect, if we beautify our downtown, residents and businesses are going to feel like they look like an odd sheep if they don't do the same thing, right? So it's going to be a wonderful domino effect if we continue. So please keep this top of mind for us and keep pushing it forward would be my encouragement.
Will do.
Does staff have any asks or requests?
I don't think so. I mean, this is a really interesting program. The cost to participate is minimal, really, in the grand scheme of things. So I think it's a pretty simple thing for the town to do, even within our existing budgets. It would be good to talk to our parks and open space and forestry staff and get their feedback. And then also maybe some of our partners like Berthoud Local, who have, ag focus and manage the community garden on our behalf and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is a great kickoff point if it's something the board wants to pursue and explore. Like I said, I would get the right staff involved and then engage with our partners who have kind of similar overlap.
You generally support of that?
Let's go. Yeah,
You bet.
let's do it.
Great job.
Okay.
That was a
Wonderful.
yeah. Please, I just
One
interrupted.
additional question
Thanks,
for
everyone.
you.
Yes, sir.
Would you be open to entertaining a presentation for the tree advisory committee? I think they'd be very interested.
Yes, I'd be happy to.
I'll reach out to Forrester Furnace on that.
Okay.
See if we can set that up.
Okay. Super.
Thank you for coming in tonight and for
Thanks,
approaching us on
everyone.
this. What a great
Thank
idea.
you.
Thanks. Nice job.
Especially awesome since you're a resident. All right. Number 5 here is the Caring Pathways. This is a change of condition request. And we have a Community Development Director, Ann Johnson, here to present on this.
Hello, Mayor Karsbeck and members of the Town Board of Trustees. So a special use permit was approved by the Town Board on June 13th, 2023 for Caring Pathways to operate a pet crematorium at 502 North 2nd Street. And since that time, the facility has operated without any complaints. They've improved the property and have assisted families in northern Colorado. So a condition of approval that was placed on the special use permit is found in section 1C of Resolution 14, Series 2023, and that's in your packet. And that condition is that operations are limited to Monday through Friday unless otherwise approved by the town board. So a letter of request came from Jeff Lewis, and Jeff is here this evening. It is included in your packet. This request is to eliminate any restrictions of the days of operation. Staff recommends that the board approve the expansion of operations as requested in accordance with Resolution 14, Series 2023, and I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Trustees? I mean, obviously, this includes Sunday. Any hours?
It can be Saturday, Sunday. Right now, we have no restriction on hours,
Okay.
so we wouldn't be asking to put restrictions on hours, just removing that condition that they can't operate on Saturdays and Sundays.
What are the hours currently? Welcome.
Sure. Hi, I'm Jeff Lewis. Thank you for considering this request. We operate from 5:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And really this request is, there are times where we can't operate Monday through Friday because of weather or equipment maintenance or employee illness. And so in order for us to catch up, we would want to be able to spill into the weekend and carry on some operations there. We don't plan on it really expanding our hours outside of if and when we would need to catch up because of another circumstance.
Thank you very much for answering the question. Do trustees have any questions?
No, I move to approve the request to expand the hours of operations for Caring Pathways located on 502 2nd Street by removing the condition of approval imposed under Section 1C of Resolution number 2023-14, and it looks like you guys are very busy.
Trustee Wing, thank you for moving. Is there a second?
I
Trustee
actually have a question.
Yes, Trustee Sorcelli.
If we were to receive a number of observations that were negative, could we put in provisions later on to limit the hours?
Director Johnson, I don't see why not. But
If there were a series of complaints, it would have to go back through the court process. And at that moment in time, it would be hard to put something on because now you're taking it away.
Sure. Okay. So I just want to make sure that the board is aware that this is a fairly difficult process to undo once we've done it.
And I will, maybe just to allay some concern, which I think is reasonable and it's a good point. I don't believe we've received any complaints since they opened, so hopefully that will continue. They've been good neighbors and certainly have done a nice job renovating the building and other things, so we're appreciative of that.
we have a motion by Trustee Wing, seconded by Trustee Hardy. Any final discussion? Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Hardy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Wing,
Yes.
Trustee Brody,
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
Trustee Ayers,
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes, and unanimous. Thank you. Thank you for coming in tonight. Okay. Next is the Rural Alternative for Transportation and Berthoud Area Transportation System. merger proposal, and we have. Is it Ruth here presenting, or I'll turn it over to Administrator Kirk to give a little background here.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Karspek and trustees. As you know, this conversation has been ongoing for some time. There have been a number of presentations before you with proposals from Raft about how the town could or maybe should, in their eyes, operate transit and transportation in the future. We've met as a task force, and by task force I mean representatives of Raft in the town, including Mayor Karspek and Trustee Ayers, as they've been available, to kind of talk through some of these issues to try and refine their proposal and concept. And so tonight they're here to present that to you for consideration.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me present again. I've been before you before with information, but this time we would like action.
Let me try it over on that
Okay.
computer. And we'll get you going, okay?
Okay. Thank you. We're trying to get the PowerPoint going, which will make it more interesting for everybody. But just first of all, good evening to all of you. Mayor Karspek, honorable trustees, town administrator, assistant administrator, and Christian for helping out now with trying to get the PowerPoint going. Again, I thank you for having me come again, and I'm presenting on behalf of RAFS. I'm not an employee. I was the founder, and my love stays there, so I don't know how to extricate myself when asked for help, so I'm here. The issue before you tonight is a contract between the town of Berthoud and the nonprofit Rural Alternative for Transportation. The idea is for unifying two transportation systems into a single cohesive system beginning this year. This concept of a uniform system, not luck?
I think so.
Oh, that looks good. Okay, the first one. Go up, you can go one before that. I need the timeline. That is,
A different file?
We need a little more time. We can also reorient just an option for you, the agenda, Ruth, and we put you after if you want.
okay. Anyway, so we'll go with here the unifying batch and RAF. I was going to give you a quick history, the narrative of bats and raft, and it's not been something that's happened in the last 2 years, the last 5 years, the last 10 years. It's actually been several decades. The story of volunteer transportation began more than 3 decades ago, long before today's discussion about unifying services. The Senior Center, otherwise known as Berthoud Golden Links, took on the responsibility of helping older citizens remain connected to the community. Using what was described as a rickety old van, they transported seniors to lunches, activities, and other essential outings. The early services marked the first organized attempt to ensure mobility for Berthoud's aging population.
There we go.
Great. Okay. In the year 2000, transportation regulations had become increasingly complex, and the Senior Center could no longer manage the growing operational and compliance demands. Recognizing the community's need, the town of Berthoud assumed responsibility for BATS, known as Berthoud Area Transportation. Under town management, BATS became an official municipal program, expanding structure and oversight, and one of which I think you've been quite proud. A major turning point arrived in 2013 when the town of Berthoud trustees restricted public transit service area, reducing the geographic coverage from 102 square miles to just 13 square miles. This shift effectively cut rural seniors and adults with disabilities off from the town's transportation support, leaving many without a way to reach medical appointments or social services. In response, members of the local community took matters into their own hands and founded Rural Alternative for Transportation, a volunteer-driven organization, to restore transportation access to rural residents who are no longer served by bats. Just 1 year later, in 2014, the town of Berthoud recognized the growing importance of effectiveness of RAF's volunteer model. In an official presentation, the town stated clearly the town has been contracting with RAF since 2014. And that contract was for RAF to take town residents from in-town locations to out-of-town services, particularly in the area of medical. This partnership marked the beginning of a long, evolving relationship in which RAF worked alongside BATS, complementing the town's public transportation. Over the next decade, RAF grew rapidly, our ridership surged, increasing more than 300%, a reflection of both rising demand and our responsibility to existing populations. The organization also continued to refine its operation. In 2023, RAFT deployed new scheduling and volunteer driver coordination software, leading to a 38% increase in completed trips within a single year. A remarkable gain for a nonprofit dependent on volunteers and community support. Internal growth was matched by the changes in leadership. At the end of 2022, Steve Conaway joined RAFT, bringing professional transportation experience and more than doubling down on partnerships, outreach, and service expansion. Meanwhile, the town of Berthoud also began reassessing the broader transit future. In January 23, the town released a detailed transit assessment, addressing both BATS and RAFT and analyzing service gaps and identifying opportunities to modernize and coordinate transportation offerings in the face of population growth. Even as planning continued, RAFT reached a major milestone. In 2024, the nonprofit celebrated its 10th anniversary, coincided with the retirement of the founder. She doesn't stay retired very well, but yeah. Her leadership had shepherded RAFT from a grassroots idea into a cornerstone of rural mobility. By 2025, RAFT was increasing community engagement, adding new vehicles, exploring deeper collaboration with the town of Berthoud. Conversations intensified around whether transportation services would function best under a unified structure. The task force was appointed in 2026. These discussions culminated in 2026 when the town released a draft transportation services agreement proposing that RAF become the sole administrator and operator of BATS. The proposed agreement envisions 3-year term through 2029, consolidating rider services, scheduling, staffing, and policy implementation under one organization. The move signals a significant step toward fully integrating town-run and volunteer-run transportation models into a single, cohesive system. This proposed contract, formally listed on your town board's agenda today, had 2 major issues to be brought forward. One, productivity, and the second one, efficiency. So what we have now is the unifying BATS and RAFT. Wait, Christian, you think I know how to run this, yes?
Yes, if you use the right hand arrow key, it will advance to the next slide.
Right hand arrow. Okay.
Probably use that button right there.
Oh,
to try to
do this one?
the down arrow. There you go.
Thank you. Unification rationale and operational efficiency. Why unifying now? Strategic drivers for consolidation. 1, we eliminate redundancy. Consolidation removes duplicated administrative functions, improving cost effectiveness and focusing on direct services. Adapt to growing demand. A unified system enables flexible transportation solutions to meet population growth and increasing demands. Enhance rider experience. Standardize access with one contact point, simplifying application and gaining into the service. Governance rider experience and future planning. We have a simplified rider access. One phone call, one website, 111. Consistent service experience. Standardized service policies, create reliability, and improves experience. And we will assure you that any rider of VATS will receive services under the consolidated system. Unified branding and streamlined processes. Reducing barriers. If I could give you an example, the past week, one rider had made an appointment with both RAFs and BATS. What she did was she was afraid she wasn't getting one ride, so she called the other one, and we both showed up. And this doesn't happen just once. That's that thing of we may both be in the system, but we don't know what each other's doing. Enhanced equity and accessibility. Here comes to we both serve the barriers for seniors and disabled and other transportation challenged. And that's that group. They may not be seniors, they may not be disabled, but they're transportation challenged. Data-driven service improvement. By integrating into one service, we'll have the data that you as trustees know for serving your community. Future processing, birth and mobility through a unified transit system. Unified transit adaptability. Again, it's the adoption of on-demand rides and coordinated regional connection. That's something that happens the day we sign the contract. We already make people accessible to going to Flex or going to the airport to catch Groom to go to the airport, the big airport. Long-term regional collaboration. RAFT is intimately involved with the Northern Colorado Front Range planning community and having to do with transportation. People can call there and say, how do I get to here to there? I don't have any transportation. And they can contact us. In fact, they can go into our system and put a rider in. It's that coordination among Western Weld County and Northern Colorado. Long-term strategic planning. By being one, we can really plan together to meet the needs of both in-town and rural people. Operational, financial, and rider benefits. Efficient dispatch integration. Integrated dispatch minimizes the deadhead travel and enables real-time trip consolidation. Also eliminates the duplication of us both showing up. Flexible driver resource. Increased workforce flexibility, improving scheduled flexibility by enhancing the minimal roster of paid drivers with a larger pool of volunteer drivers. And that's handled well by other programs. VIA is one, 60 Plus and Greeley is one. They use both. Unified policies, streamlined safety, accessibility, and reporting. Financial efficiency, cost efficiency through unification. Merging BATS and RAFT reduces duplicated costs, saving the town of Berthoud and its taxpayers $86,000 a year based on your 2026 budget for BATS. Enhanced grant competitiveness. The minute we're a joint program, really a partnership between the town and a nonprofit, it puts us way up on the, boy, this is someone we want to fund with a grant. I can assure you that I've been a grant writer. Cooperative partnerships always receive merit. Improved accountability and transparency. A single budget, reporting structure, increased transparency and accountability by one agency, not divided between two. You are able to ask questions. Again, what we're requesting is that you approve the completing the contract between the town and Raft. Yes, we know we have some tweaks we have yet to do. There's the issue on what do we do with the BATS vehicles? Is Raft going to take them? Is Raft going to take one? What's going to be worked out on that one? That one is not clear yet. I don't think anyone has any strong feelings. It's listening to each other and see what's going to be best. But finalized is coming up with a single cohesive transportation program for Berthoud.
Thank you very much. For any Administrator Kirk, do you have anything to add for questions?
Just that this contract, staff has reviewed it. Our new attorneys at Hoffman, Parker, Wilson, Carberry have not. But I do think, as Ruth pointed out, there are still some things that we need to define if this is the direction the board wants to proceed. Things like how do we handle current staffing at BATS? How do we handle the vehicles? As she mentioned, does RAF take them? Do we keep them? Do we sell them? What we're effectively discussing is the elimination of BATS. So I think we need to be clear about that. And the idea that's being presented by RAFT is eliminate BATS, contract with RAFT to provide all transportation services for the town. One of the things that we've talked about in the past is that we currently provide overlapping but different services in that RAFT provides services to seniors and adults with disabilities, and we provide service to anyone. However, the vast majority of our riders are seniors and adults with disabilities. Out of 370 trips in January, I may be quoting this number wrong because I don't have it right in front of me. Out of plus or minus 360 trips in January on BATS, I think 6 of the riders were not seniors or adults with disabilities. So there is a significant amount of overlap in our current ridership. Now, this is a little bit different than what we had previously discussed as we went through the transit assessment and feasibility study that was included in your packet, and a move towards a more on-demand, software-driven, open and flexible microtransit solution. So this is different than that plan. What RAFT is proposing and what we have discussed previously with microtransit may be able to exist in parallel, where they handle all seniors and adults with disabilities for employment trips and needed medical. Maybe they have a larger service area than we are willing to provide. And then we utilize the grant funds that we were awarded through the federal government to implement the microtransit pilot program in parallel. That way, the two services could exist, or we could choose to ask RAFT to provide a similar service if that's something they could kind of scale up and provide. And they may choose to do that if we solicited proposals for microtransit services. They could submit a proposal. So, I think there's some ways to handle that, but stepping all the way back to the beginning, I think the important conversation here is, do we eliminate BATS and ask RAFT to provide that service for us instead?
Okay, and just to clarify, so with this proposal, there would be no services. If we went ahead with this, there would be no services for folks under 65 able-bodied.
I think the intention is that RAFT would provide those services. Now, they currently provide service with volunteers, and so they would likely need to provide some paid drivers in order to handle those trips. Only in that they may struggle to find volunteers to take, an able-bodied adult to the rec center or to the library or to the grocery store. And maybe they won't. Maybe volunteers will be happy to take those trips as well. But,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, so this is I see here. Microtransit's kind of out of the question for this, but we still have the money available from federal government, right? And
We have not refused the grant at this point. So we've been telling them we're working through this issue with RAFT, and that may change our direction, but they understand where we're at, and
So
I don't think we're in danger of losing the funding at this point. But we will if we don't make a decision about microtransit. We'll have to let them know we won't do that pilot program.
Or we could.
Separately. Yeah, separately.
Yeah. Okay.
Or in parallel and in partnership with RAFT.
Yeah.
That may be an option too, but it will be a separate process from this in either case.
Thank you. I was trying to figure.
Yeah.
Tonight's not a micromobility conversation.
It is not.
Yeah.
No.
Questions?
Yeah.
Trustee Wayne.
Administrator Kirk, I don't think anyone's closer to you than this, and certainly appreciate all the efforts on behalf of the task force. But I would really like to know what their recommendation is, both Administrator Kirk and the task force.
Yeah. Great question. I think so. For my, Ms. Carter really wanted to be on the agenda here. I don't know if the task force has had any formal. Well, I know we haven't had any formal conversation on this new proposal. We haven't met since. You did reach out. I just couldn't meet last week, so it's not on.
Yes, and also what the task force keeps saying is, well, to the point now it's up to the trustees.
Okay. Yeah.
That was consistently said, along with, is the town going to save money? Those are the two primary questions repeated.
And I do think it, from our perspective, and I think this is the struggle we've had, which is why this needs to come back in front of the trustees. We need to answer the question of why, right? Why do we provide transit to begin with, or transportation services at all? Why would we want to change what we're doing today to either work with Raft or to pursue microtransit, or both? And I think the board is best suited to answer that question. And I do think it changes the recommendation for what's the best path forward, right? If you tell me why this is important, and I mean, I can provide a couple of suggestions, although I think many of you have your own thoughts about that. Then it's easier for us as a task force and a staff to say, okay, well, if our goal is to provide transportation to those most in need, which we've generally defined in the past as seniors and adults with disabilities, this may be the best path forward. If our goal is to provide transportation access to everyone in the community, to expand that service, to increase its speed and reliability, this might not be the best path forward, if that makes sense, right? And so I think, there is an important question of why that we've struggled to answer at the task force.
Okay. Yeah. I can take a stab at it too, but trustees might have their own questions with this. Would you like me to?
Yeah, I would love to, actually.
Well, if this 86,000 is correct, it makes sense to me. I don't think we have much to lose off of this, certainly. We have been in essentially a holding pattern since, I've been along, I can't even remember when I started.
2021's a
Too
holding
long.
pattern, but
Yeah,
we began contracting in 2014.
So this does provide, in my mind, progress, and it doesn't eliminate the conversation on micro mobility and the significant grant we received for that from the federal government. I don't really, it seems like a plus to me, just off the bat.
And I will say,
if I may, Mayor, regarding regular non-disabled people,
Right.
we are looking seriously, though, generally to beginning with those that are transportation challenged. I know the riders that you have that are not seniors and not disabled, maybe a grandparent that wants caring for their grandkids and they want to take them to the library, and the one car in the family isn't available, it's at work. So they become transportation challenged. And looking at services for the community, I know that Raft and BATS have both been asked by the chamber and by the town to help out on your birthday days.
Right.
Well, Raft has already been looking at that, saying, okay, we now have a shuttle. We could come up with a shuttle plan and pick people up in a round robin and pick them up and take them home and whatever, and eliminate some of the parking problems on birthday day and other celebration days.
That's great. But something you just said there triggered a question. So you were saying right now we won't focus on able-bodied. Is that coming down the road or in your mind, or from day one of this contract?
It's coming down the road in their mind when you look at their vision statement, yes.
So there's no timeline right now. Maybe that's something in there, but yeah, that might be a big decision point here. If we would be losing services if there's no longer any kind of service for, I hate the word able-bodied, if non-disabled designee.
I would say correct. There will be services. We're going to be looking at it by the requests that come in, what becomes the need. We're going out. I know that in your transportation assessment, you had some papers at the community center, the recreation center, where they could identify needs. I think this plan here is to go out to the community, different groups, different HOAs, different schools, find their needs, and then come up with what's our priority.
Hi, I'm sorry to interrupt. My name is Steve Conaway. I'm the executive director of Raft. We have a plan to continue services. We've done research on who those people are because, we shared our software system. We came up with 5 people. 3 of those are under the age of 18. One was going to the middle school or the high school. One went to the Mexican restaurant, a 9-year-old going to the Mexican restaurant. We can get those trips done. We've discussed it. And until we can change our mission statement, which is already on the agenda for our board, what we could do and what we've looked at doing is just get Uber trips for them if there's going to be a conflict. However, once we hire a driver, there shouldn't be a conflict because we would have them, hopefully 2 part-time drivers, and we could almost move towards having them located in our office and picking that person up and taking them to where they need to go. The trips that we have seen, there have been 2 to Walmart, and this was in a time frame from August and September last year because that's really the only accurate data we had from vets.
Okay.
So yeah, we plan on giving transportation to everybody.
Great. Yeah, that's my point here. It sounds like it's very sparse right now with the users, but if we could grow that, that's obviously I think a plus for all of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I guess.
So are we ready to make a decision? I mean, it seems like I don't mean kicking down the cone. I don't mean to be derogatory.
No,
but
you're not.
I don't know what's left for us to
We do have some questions down here.
sort. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
but
I
it
don't
seems
know.
like we're ready for some closure.
Okay.
Is that accurate? I mean, do you agree?
I guess the micromobility threw me off when we were planning this last week, but knowing that money's still available, I think we are. I'm just trying to think out loud. Trustee Sorcelli, we'll go this way over. Man, I just gave you a different last name, Trustee Albrecht.
That's okay. Whatever. Just May. I just wanted to clarify, so this, in the scope of services, it says all citizens residing in the Greater Berthoud Fire Protection District. It's all 80513. So the intention is everybody within that zip code, within the Berthoud zip code. But then it also says that the RACT will prioritize trips in the following order: medical, employment, education, all others. And so I just wanted to clarify that that's the intent, which I think is what I'm hearing you say, is that it would be all riders, but there would be a priority of needs, which makes a lot of sense. And then the ask of, it was 100,000, and I don't remember the rest of it, but around 183,000 a contract year.
Mm-hmm.
So with that figure, that would encompass the enough personnel to allow rides to all of Berthoud citizens with
Yes, and you have to remember, we've already been serving Berthoud residents. It's a good percentage of our caseload now, taking them to the out-of-town locations.
Right.
What we're picking up now is your in-town locations, and that's much less demanding as far as time goes, to go 2 miles than to go our trip of 17 miles. So what we figure is that request will help us do the paid drivers and maybe a paid scheduler so that people aren't put on waiting, they know right away. And then as we move toward more and more transportation for the transportation hindered, then those rules have to change. But as far as we want to make sure that all of BATS is going to be covered. They're going to know it's a Berthoud program. It's not going to just, say RAFT and we're not going to say who we're with or whatever. Definitely Berthoud, they're going to know it's Berthoud's program.
Well, and forgive me, I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So with the absorption of BATS, is the language that you're proposing in the contract stating that it's going to be for all able-bodied or transportation limited people?
Transportation challenge, we guarantee at the first, if you look at that timeline. But then as we learn what the community wants, do these route things for special days to start with, and see what evolves and what the needs are.
So
and
that
our goal is to meet the needs.
I'm sorry. And this is me just trying to understand the initial cost and the ask from the town is not for the expansion of services. Am I understanding that correctly?
Not to I think the question is kind of the same one I had.
Okay.
This doesn't cover able-bodied people initially, right?
Not
drivers.
initially. As we grow into the need, it will.
Is that what you were asking?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any kind of idea on when that could be? 90 days, 6 months?
You know, by 90 days, we hope to know.
Okay.
Okay? And we
I think
can
we're all kind of worried if we
share
pass
the
something
other.
and then we're in 3 years in and
What we're
there's-
going to do is guarantee anybody that received batch services will continue to receive services, period. And then we'll expand on that as we determine with the town what their needs are, what they need.
And you'd be okay with that in the contract if this thing needs to be edited a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to interrupt. It definitely needs to be edited.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that we not approve it
Sure.
tonight.
Sure.
That's okay.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No,
Your trustees?
Very good. Yeah, so I have a couple clarification questions, and then I also have, I guess, a couple concern/questions. What is the current BATS schedule?
Excuse me. I'm going to pull it up because I always get this wrong. So I'm just going to tell you right off our website so I don't get this wrong. Sorry, it'll just take me a second to see yours. BATS currently, operates daily from 8 to 4 during the week for in-town trips. We take out-of-town trips Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday between 8 and 11:30. We go to Loveland. We don't go to Longmont. And then on Thursday, we do an afternoon trip from 11:30 to 3 to Loveland.
Okay. And the scheduling is 1 day in advance?
Typically, if you call the day before, it's usually pretty easy for us to schedule you. That's not always true. It depends on what else has already been scheduled. But our current scheduling, we ask for a call the day before.
Okay. And then I have a question about another question about eligibility. Sorry. So it says designated residents will be eligible for all services, including trips to Berthoud, Loveland, Longmont, and adjacent communities. What defines an eligible resident? Is it address? So if someone is visiting from out of town, is that person eligible to get a ride, or is it only people with specific Berthoud
This
addresses?
is with you, the town, so it's for those in town. We already serve those out of town.
So you need
and
an address?
we serve in town. Yeah, it's address based.
And so anyone calling for a ride at an in-town address could get that ride based on your eligibility requirements.
That's how BATS currently operates. It depends on the pickup location.
Okay, so you don't need to be a citizen. You
We
can-
don't ask.
Yeah.
We just know where your pickup location is.
Hi, I'm sorry to interrupt again. I just want to be up here because a lot of these questions are probably things that Ruth, even though her heart is still with Raft, she's not involved in the operations. And so I might be able to answer more clearly.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Right. You don't need an address. That is not the goal. It's basically supposed to be a transportation service for anyone within the Berthoud area.
Okay. Is there, if this were to go through, would there be a gap in BATS service in the interim between the time that it were to pass and the actual merger?
I don't believe so. Originally, we were looking at a 30-day window to change. We think that the town may need a little bit more time considering. So hopefully it could be 60 days. If it needs to go to 90, we could. But when we look at the clients, I don't think it would take us very long to reach out to them via telephone, via mail, give them the different number, see if they're going to need trips, and basically get set. And hopefully we could hire staff to do that, especially the trips in town, within the first 3 weeks.
Okay. And then I guess, Administrator Kirk, I don't know if you can answer this question. This is probably a horrible question. But in all of the surveys that have gone out and the study that was done a couple years ago, did anyone ask or did anyone provide feedback as to why people do not ride public transit, BATS specifically?
I don't believe that we asked that question specifically. I think, based on anecdotal feedback, I think part of it is a convenience factor. If you have to schedule it the day before and it's not a guarantee, that can be a challenge for a lot of folks, especially, if it's a medical appointment or something. If it's a medical appointment, you may have the opportunity to schedule that well in advance, and so that should be a little bit easier for you to do, but that doesn't always happen. But I think that's part of the challenge. And then some of it's probably limited operational hours. 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. I'm sure people want to go places on Saturday and Sunday. And so once you start to figure out how to get around without bats, you may need to get somewhere at a time when we don't operate, then you may choose to rely on that service more frequently. So that could be part of it. And there's certainly some anecdotal things we've heard, but I don't know that we have a clear, specific answer for you.
Okay. Yeah, so that's been my, I think, consistent concern, right? Is that I appreciate and I praise what you guys are doing and what you guys are offering, but I'm concerned about the immediate access because you keep I guess the term that I'm struggling with here is the sort of evolution, right? We'll wait and see what people want. That's concerning to me from a specifically transit mindset, because if people don't have it, they're not going to use it, and that's consistently my concern. And based on Administrator Kirk's answer, it's the convenience factor, right? So continuing to do what you're doing at an increased, combined level seems to be a useful thing. But I am concerned that if we, I guess, put all the eggs in one basket and don't continue to look for other options for specific things that you guys are not able to do, really, right? Those immediate calls, the sort of on-demand, day before service, random people who are calling on a Saturday or a Friday trying to get to Taco Bell or something at 7:30, right? Well, if that doesn't exist for them, they're never going to try again, is my concern, right? So I don't know where I'm kind of going with this, but if
No, I see where you're going.
I don't disagree with necessarily merging the two, but I also think that we
need to expand for able-bodied and try to track that.
If we're going to expand, especially since the town has grown in numbers, and as we spread out away from the downtown area, if we don't provide those on-demand services, they're never going to be used again, right? And so, like I said, I think that it's a good idea to join the two systems together, because we are repeating. We do have, I think you said redundancy. We do have redundancy in some of these services, and that seems to me to be a good idea. But I also want to keep the options open for actual expansion, I guess immediate expansion in the future, if that makes sense.
So the microtransit won't be touched. We'll still have that funding, but you're just worried about this immediate transfer, making sure they have a plan. Even if they came back in 90 days or something, they had a plan in 90 days to come back with us, or in the contract here to have a plan, you're worried about right away, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So I guess my biggest sticking point is the idea of, I know this is probably not the best way to put it, but I'm tired and I'm going to say it anyway. But the idea of asking people what they want and evolving the service to suit their needs. But if you don't have what they want immediately, they're never going to use the service again. The able-bodied.
I understand what you're saying, and we are all about growth. We are getting ready to do major expansion next month. But you're also talking about growth like, okay, do you grow the hours? Do you start doing Saturdays and Sundays? It's our intention to do that. It's our intention to do micro-transportation eventually. But micro-transportation is a whole nother model, and I'm not sure if there's really a need for it. It's very expensive. From the models I've looked at, Berthoud's not quite ready for that. But we already do things outside of the guidelines. We have taken people on holidays. We've taken people late into the night. And that's part of our mobility. But if you create a loop service, and one of our board members wanted to create a loop service, say between the hours of 11 and 2, that just does birthed. And a car just goes around and it goes around. You're going to have someone driving around in an empty bus all day. Mm-hmm. If you have a vehicle where someone can call and say, hey, can I get a ride from the apartments up there over to Hayes Market? If we have a car and a vehicle right there, there's no reason it's going to take us more than 5 minutes to get them and drop them.
Right, but my concern with that is that in the proposal, it says that you have to book a ride a day in advance by 4 p.m.
Well, that's a policy that is within both BATS and RAFT currently. That would be the kind of growth that we would be looking at.
And what we're assuring there is that we will meet what BATS is doing now, but we are going to expand.
Right, but my concern is that if it's not immediate, people are not going to ask for it. Does that?
Well, it's kind of like build it and they will come.
Yes, basically, right. So if it's in the bylaws, if it's in the bylaws, like I appreciate that you want to expand and change, right? That's great. But if it's in the bylaws that you have to book a ride by 4 p.m. the day before, well, someone's just going to get in their car and drive. They're not going to use the service because it's quote unquote not available to them. And then they're done. And if someone asks them if they're visiting, hey, can we just, do we have to drive or can we call RAFT? That person is going to say, well, no, because we had to call yesterday. They don't take day of trips. Right.
So trustees there, don't you think they should have a little skin in the game? I mean, if someone doesn't jump in their own car to go somewhere, I guess I would ask why they don't use their own car if it's available. And then second is, rather than just, at the drop of a hat, somebody can just call and say, come and get me. Don't you think they should, part of this is we're offering a free service, so they should have some accountability and responsibility for planning out what their needs are. If it's an emergency, that's different, but I don't think that's what we're talking about.
For clarity, we do charge for non-seniors on BATS. It's a very low cost. In the microtransit model, we would expect to charge for that service because it is on demand and it is. So we wouldn't expect to provide that service for free. It could still be low cost, but yes, they should have some skin in the game.
So the bigger picture concern that I'm having, right, is as we start to grow, as more and more communities and more community members start living a mile away from downtown or a mile away from McDonald's or a mile away from TPC, et cetera, the traffic concerns and the congestion are going to appear to grow because there is no alternative way for people to get to town. And skin in the game, well, they have skin in the game. They're in Berthoud. They moved here. So if they want to go out with their kids and just hang out downtown and there's no parking because it's 4th of July or it's birthday day or something like that, well, if they have to call the day before to have a random trip downtown, they're never going to use that service. They're just going to park 3 blocks away, or they're not going to go at all. I'm trying to. I'm sorry.
I'm trying to find. I know, and I'm trying to find solutions while you're doing this.
I think there is an easy solution actually, because I think you're being really, long term. What services should we provide to bridge that transportation gap for everybody else for the same day demand? I really think the solution is to separate that from this entirely and say that is a micro mobility issue, and that is what that service is going to deal with solely. And that way we have 2 completely different service models, one that the town handles and one that we contract out. That way we can dial that in. It would be amazing for events to have TPC people being transported downtown if they've had too much to drink or whatever, they could get home safely, or, vice versa for big events or the tournaments and things like that. So I think if we could keep that long range vision, but parcel it out to one's microtransit, if it's same day, able-bodied, within town, versus the, at risk or the in need group that has a need currently, and move forward with one and keep this one kind of moving separately. Does that make sense?
So you're saying we need to keep two programs? Then it sounds like that's what you just said. Is that
Not-
what you're saying?
Not to keep bats, which the town is currently operating. I would recommend that we let them absorb it and contract that out and have the amazing partnership with them to handle that more efficiently than we have been. And then we tackle micro because we have grant funding available to utilize, and we can have that pilot program. And the neat thing about the pilot is we utilize it, see if it's effective, see if there's a demand, and if it works, then we love it, and the citizens benefit and businesses benefit. We keep going. If not, then we didn't lose any money in the process.
I agree, and we could go out for bid for that, and Raft could bid if they wanted to. And I mean, I was in Costco today in Longmont, and Longmont's version came through the parking lot, so it's pretty cool. I mean, that makes sense to me. But that, yeah. So sorry, I agree.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
No, and I think that the framework that you brought to us is the closest thing that we've had to a really strong document. So I think it's the framework we need to move forward. And I think they've been waiting for anything solid to be able to function. So we're missing opportunities to provide services. We're really not having a great reputation with our community of transit and cohesiveness right now because of that gap. And so I think it makes perfect sense to move forward with somebody who could handle that. And to be honest, I spent an entire day with regional leaders who talked about public and private partnership and how it's essential, and the towns being able to fund those partnerships so they can do what they do best, and it enhances the community. It brings in dollars to the community. It saves people on tax dollars on the extra expense from the town. So to me, it's a slam dunk. But we do need to tell them what our parameters are. Like, how much will we give them every year? What's our ask of them? Which the same services need to continue, and I would say from bats. But I think that to me, we just take the document provided, put in our parameters of what we're asking them to continue, which is, I think, what I'm hearing is services to all ages and abilities. And then what I'm not clear on is the cost to the citizens. Is it free? And I think that would be great if it could be free transportation.
That's what we say in one of the exhibits. There will be no cost. And you'll see that some of the larger transportation are stopping asking for any funds. Fort Collins, you just get on the Fort Collins bus. There's no charge because they're finding that's more of a hassle than the benefits they want from people using it.
I do think it's important
that no charge to anybody. We do ask for donations, and if you look at our budgets, we get as much or more in donations than you get in fees. People are generous when they have a service provided them at no cost and it's met a need. They're generous.
They're also we accept donations as well, but people don't donate to the town. Right.
Don't donate to the government?
No. So we do accept donations. That is on our website, and that is certainly an opportunity. But specifically for bats riders, that's less common. And I think it's important, and I only bring this up because when we think about there may not be a cost to the rider, there is a cost to the citizens, and I think that's an important consideration for the board. The citizens of the town are paying for this service. Right. And so it does cost money. It's an investment the town board is choosing to make in transportation for our residents. But it is not, we all have that tendency, myself included, to be like, oh, well, that's cool. The government's going to cover that cost. Well, we are the government, right? I mean, and by that, I mean all the folks that live here, including me and you and everybody else. So I do think it's important we make that distinction. It may not cost the rider. It does cost the citizens of the town. They're the ones that pay us to do all of this. Yeah.
And if I may add, Mayor and trustees, the town of Berthoud citizens have said they want transportation. It's in your 1% where they name bats to maintain it and improve it, and I think this will improve it.
I just have some questions on the financial side of it. So, RAP's asking for is $150,000 per year or a one-time?
No, that is the $183 is for. Do I have the amount right, Stephen?
$183,000.
Yeah, annually.
Annually, okay.
But that still saves you $68,000 a year from your BATS budget.
So, what does it cost us to operate our transit system every year?
About $175,000 plus or minus.
Okay.
That does not include the $75,000 that we currently pay Raft. or the money that we pay for the flex service, which is about 45. So total cost in the BATS fund is much more than that. But when you take out the payment to Raft and the payment to Flex, it's about 175,000 to operate BATS.
So the flex and the payment to RAF essentially then would go away because they're going to assume that service, correct?
The payment to Flex would still occur if we want to continue to provide access to that regional transit service. The payment to Raft would go away. So that's really where the savings comes from. Otherwise, it's relatively the same cost,
And
except that we
How
wouldn't.
many vehicles do we currently operate?
We own 3, we operate 2.
Okay. And then how many full-time employees or part-time employees do we have?
We have 1 full-time employee and 1 part-time in BATS. And then, obviously there's a whole lot of indirect costs associated with running the service that we don't incorporate into the BATS budget. As an example, my time doesn't get billed to BATS because it's already subsidized by the general fund, and so, or by the 1998 1% fund. But my time, Jeremy's time, Cindy's time, our HR and finance expenses, those don't get billed to BATS. So it does cost more than that, but we don't bill that time to the BATS fund. We just cover it in the general fund or in other.
And then you already touched on, potentially figuring out what to do with the vehicles, whether you repurpose them for something else or dispose of them or whatever. What about the employees that are currently working on that program? Would they have the opportunity to move over and work for Raft potentially, or are there other things for them here at the town?
I think it's unlikely that we will find other spots here at the town. That's not to say that we couldn't, and that certainly would be offered where that was available. I hate to discuss, because we really have 1 full-time employee in the BATS department. He's been with the town for decades. But yes, that will be a complicating factor. I have a suggestion for how we will handle that. I don't think we want to discuss it in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other thoughts? Mr. Wayne?
I'm good.
What do you think?
It sounds like combining the two creates efficiency and cost savings. Offering, free transportation for everybody under the sun is probably not a way I lean, but I hear other people's concerns about that. I can walk and I can ride a bike. I don't mean to be condescending, but people that are that close to town, so I get it. I just we've put these people through a lot. We've had a task force working on this. We've invested a lot of time in it, and whether it's a vote or I don't think we're doing that tonight. But it sounds like a lot of good thought has gone into it, and I would support what they've come up with.
Okay. Yeah, we're not voting, but I just want to get your thoughts in case there's anything to add or subtract. Trustee Hardy, you generally okay? Okay. Good. Trustee Ayers?
Yeah, so I agree that combining the two is much more efficient. I would like to have maybe some discussion or some clarification on possibly expanding the hours.
Okay.
And I would strongly suggest that we keep future discussions of the grant in place to
not giving that back or anything.
Right. Yeah.
And so what you want that in the contract of a little more longer hours for their use, or?
So my concern would be not necessarily just for medical trips or
educational,
yeah,
employment.
but possibly for workers who are in what is covered now, possibly Longmont, Loveland, Burkett, just as a conversation piece.
How do you feel about that, Ms. Fletcher?
Well, the workers we have already picked up and taken them to jobs in Loveland. We haven't had any jobs to Longmont, but we've had people who pick up on, we call them subscription riders. We pick them up every day to go to work. And we picked them up because even though BATS went to Loveland that morning, they didn't go early enough that individual would be late to work. So we picked them up. We are flexible. We say hours, but we've taken people to dialysis on Saturday because they haven't changed their schedule, or they take them to dialysis at 5 p.m., which means they won't be out till 7 p.m. We find a volunteer that will take them every time. It's where their hearts are. And we have 40 volunteers.
So if they're open to that conversation, it seems like you're already doing it. That would be a way to get more of the community members who have a need, but maybe not know that they can use that service.
And if I may, and this is something that I don't know why it took so long for this to kind of crystallize in my mind. And maybe it's because we started with microtransit and we've been kind of working backwards ever since. And I think, and I talked to Ruth and Steve about this yesterday when we met. I think one of the things that's been complicating is trying to figure out how to continue forward with that while considering this consolidation between Raft and BATS, and that those two things don't really work today together. I think this idea of consolidation of service under one provider is more efficient and likely more cost effective. I think that the agreement should be very specific, that BATS basically service available to all riders between 8 and 4 on Monday through Friday, which is what we do today, regardless of age or disability, continue. Period. End of story. That has to be part of RAF's service. And then absorbing the remainder of those trips, which is, again, the significant majority of our trips would qualify for RAF services already anyway. They just happen to live in town rather than outside of our service area. They can absorb and likely provide better service to those folks than we do today because they have the ability to be flexible and provide expanded hours. I think that's the immediate short-term change. And then we can prepare and solicit proposals for microtransit services consistent with
Day
that
of or
grant.
on-demand stuff. But right now, keeping the 24 hours booking in advance.
That's right.
Or requiring that they serve all community members.
Basically, they must provide the exact same service that we provide today. No limitations, no restrictions beyond what we would have already had on BATS. And then we can move forward with microtransit independent. And if they want to submit a proposal for that, that would be fantastic. It would be great to work with a local provider if they can, scale up and hire the drivers and the vehicles to provide that service. But there will be a process. We still have to go through the federal grant process. Like I said, we've just kind of put all that on hold. There's paperwork to fill out and all those things. The proposals that we solicit will all have to be consistent with all the federal grant guidelines through the FTA and everything else. But we can work through all that in parallel. And
cool. That work? For
Yes.
now. I know that. Trustee Sorcelli?
That sounds great.
That works with me too.
And
we're all in agreement here. We'd like to see this go forward as a merger here or consolidation. Thank you for your decades of effort on this, but especially recently jumping back in here, and Steve, been invaluable too. Trustee Ayers, certainly Jeremy and Chris, that task force was a lot of stuff, hard stuff to go through. I mean, that was decades of stuff that you guys. So I think this is a great process forward too. It might not be ideal, and that's kind of the entrepreneurial spirit here. So we might make some mistakes along the way, but we know each other, and there's the best intent there.
Thank you. And I would like, though, to see the 60 days, what I've learned, and I've worked in government, not in New Mexico, in New Mexico, not here, but I know how demands are on everybody that's staff. And until it's needed, it's not the squeaky wheel. So however long we set it off, it becomes that month before where we all dig in. So I'd really like to see the 60 days. That would make it May 1st.
60 days that it takes effect?
Yeah, for it to take effect.
Okay.
And that gives the town time to work on.
I was going to say, I don't know if we want to. I just want to give.
I think we've got to work through the details of the agreement first, and let's finalize that agreement, get it in front of you to formally approve, and that'll set the timeline.
Well, that will be okay. We can work on that shortly and have it back in their next meeting.
Well, let's just have our attorneys look this over.
I'll work with our attorney, and we will provide you with edits and or suggestions, and then we can go from there.
Okay, but it is going to happen. That feels really good for our long-range planning. So thank you, and I don't think you'll be disappointed.
Thank you very much. Good to see you. Thank you all for coming in. You doing all right?
Can we take a 5?
Let's take a 5. We'll take a break for 5 minutes. We'll come back at 8:10.
My watch, but
let's make it 8:12.
times I've been sitting too long.
Make it 8:12.
8:12 and a half.
Yeah, exactly.
What's up?
What'd you think?
I think we're on track.
I did not see it going that long.
Well,
Ready to go the other way, and I was like,
You waited for so much time on that.
Oh, yeah, that's all right.
Never had to. Let's call the meeting back to order a little early.
All right.
I'll call the meeting back to order, and we're at item number 7 tonight, and that's the Richardson Park proposal process update. And I'll turn this over to Administrator Kirk.
Thank you, Mayor Karspeck and trustees. I wanted to come back before you tonight just to give you an update on the process. As you know, we've been talking about this project quite a bit over the last several years, but in earnest over the last year. One of the things that came up at your most recent discussion about the MVP project, we call it MVP, Mount Vista Park, formerly known as Richardson, or maybe currently known as Richardson. I don't know if the board's ever actually made the description or decision, so we keep calling it both. But in any case, was the layout of the pool as we've worked through that design based on the recommendations that we've made to you before. There used to be a separate independent dive well that kept the lap pool a little bit shallower but it also only had room for one diving board. We've also talked about some cost implications, and, depth zones, and functionality for meets and other things. So what we're showing you tonight is the direction that we intend to head. This is different than what we showed you before, but we also don't want to make that decision without you having a chance to see it and weigh in. What this represents is the elimination of the dive well and the deepening of that north end of the lap pool to accommodate 2 diving boards that would be split between lane lines, so they can be kind of lifted up out of the way during practice or meet. But basically, it makes that entire end of the pool deeper. That was some feedback that came during the port discussion. Was like, hey, we need a bigger deep area, so that this would accomplish that, and it would allow us 2 diving boards instead of 1. That would change the operation of the pool a little bit, right? There would be a little less unprogrammed recreational space during open swim times. But, similar to how we operate the rec center, we could have the diving boards open for a half hour and then have that deep end open just for swimming and other activity for a half hour without the diving boards open. And so, that can all be managed from an operational standpoint. Cool. Less surface area of the pool will reduce costs a little bit, but we're going deeper, so that's going to balance out a lot of that. But in any case, this is the direction we intend to head unless you have some direction. Otherwise, we think this is probably the best of both worlds.
How deep with the diving boards?
12 feet.
Okay. Wow.
Is that right, Jeremy? 12 feet. Sorry. So the shallow area at the south end of the lap pool, or what would kind of be the southeast end of the lap pool, will be 3.5 feet. That's great for programming for swim lessons, regular just rec pool activities where you're tossing a football back and forth. The kids are playing like animals, and then also for things like exercise classes, that 3.5 foot depth works really well for us. So it's a little shallow for flip turns, but just about everybody that is comfortable doing flip turns can do that in a 3.5 foot pool depth. That's not uncommon, but it is kind of the minimum depth that you would have for that end of the pool. For starts in a meet condition where you might have a relay where the one person is starting in the deep end and one person is starting in the shallow end. This happens in Kara swim meets all the time. That's the Colorado Rec Association that we run swim meets with. The participants start in the water. They're not allowed to dive in on the shallow end for obvious reasons. But that's not uncommon. We do that all the time. And so that works fine for Kara swim meets that we operate. So that's it on the pool side. Wanted to give you that update because the design is evolving the rest of the park as we work through the remainder of the construction drawings that you previously authorized. Most of that is utilities driven and phasing for grading and all of that stuff. So that work continues on, but we're kind of finalizing the overall layout of the pool. Any feedback on that before we go to kind of the next phase?
It kind of made sense to me.
I think the layout is much more in line with some of the conversations that have been had in port committee specifically, which I can speak for. The term big rectangle came up a lot, and I think this is closer to that.
It is a big rectangle.
You still get the separated lanes, and you also get the zero entry for everybody else. So I think this is simpler, and like I said, along the lines of a lot of their recommendations.
I just have a quick thing. The only thing that I've just heard from a few people, and I definitely agree, is the concerns about the limited season of use of an outdoor pool. And I just think would really want us to shy away from programming on a seasonal space that needs to be available for the entire community during those short summer months. And so I just want to make sure that we're not preparing to make a big recreation program of our outdoor pool, because really people want to be able to know that their kids can go jump in the pool, throughout summer vacation and anytime and not be kicked out. But it is nice that there's other amenities incorporated into that. And so I just wanted to make sure too, like the other aquatics features, are we still discussing those later on with the kids aquatic playground and the slides? Are those still part of the designs that we're working through?
We haven't removed any of those from the designs at this point. and we'll talk about that here in just a sec.
Okay.
And I appreciate the point that you made. We agree completely. The primary focus of this pool is recreational use for as long as we can kind of practically operate. That said, similar to how the outdoor pool worked in Town Park, we had swim team and lap swimming that occurred prior to open swim in the mornings. We can do that in the evenings. It stays light until well into the evening, and is not common for rec pools excuse me, to stay open past 5 or 6. Because participation typically drops off pretty significantly at that point. And so those are great times to have unrestricted lap swim or swim team or learn to swim programs or all of the above. So we will program outside of kind of the normal rec hours, but the primary focus will be rec swim. That said, if we do have a Kara swim meet, the pool will be closed for that day. Because we can't operate a swim meet and have people on the aquatic structure playgrounds and going down slides. We won't be able to operate both of those things at the same time. But that's unlikely to happen more than once or maybe twice at most in a summer. But those are good points, so thank you.
Thank you.
Couple questions. How deep is the lazy river?
Oh gosh,
Ish?
3.5, 4 feet. Yeah,
And
it's kind of waist chest height for an average adult.
And I may have missed this, did you say the diving boards would be different heights?
No, they will both be 1 meter springboards.
I would just like to recommend that we have a higher one than a lower one. I don't know what
There are some depth considerations if we went to a 3 meter springboard. We did talk about that with our pool consultants and the design team. They're cool, but they don't get used as much. And so our intention is just to do 1 meter springboards.
Okay.
That way we can do synchronized diving.
No
How
triple
deep
backflips.
should the shallow end be for relays?
3.5 feet's fine.
No, but I mean, what's the recommended for being able to dive versus starting in the water?
The typical recommendation is 6 feet. I think you can go as shallow as 4.5. It depends on the level of competition. USA Swimming has some recommendations about depth, but it would in nearly all cases be deeper than a typical recreational pool.
Yeah,
And so what
that's
we don't
significant.
want is the entire thing to be deeper than most kids can stand up in.
So this sounds like the same pool diving board setup as at the old town park. Height. Is that right? Was that a 1 meter?
That was a 1 meter springboard at Old Town Park. Yep. And that's typical for competition purposes. If you go to the Mountain View Aquatic Center in Loveland, where most of like the district swim meets are held, that's 1 meter springboards. So that's kind of the most common today.
I think you've done a really, really nice. Something happened to me last week on vacation. I just want to bring this up. It just popped into my head. Where I was, people would come and reserve 20 chairs.
Mm-hmm.
They would put one flip-flop on it and one little thing and a towel. And then all day long, 2 people would use those chairs. It was very frustrating. Does that ever come into play here? And I'm sorry to get into
It
the
happens
weeds.
all the
Okay.
time. We do have a lot of seating proposed.
It looks like it.
We have a lot of shade proposed. We've counted our shade structures versus some of the other large recreational aquatic facilities in the region, and I think we have as much or more than anybody else. We'll have trees and prefab shade structures. What you also see in gray, this is something that Jeremy and I and our staff kind of pushed for. Those are rentable cabana spaces. Those are not real typical in public rec pools, but we feel like people will gladly rent them for the day and could be a good income generator. So there will be lots of shade. Anywhere where you see kind of an X or kind of an oddly shaped geometric lines, those are prefab shade structures. So there are a lot of chairs in the shade. There are a lot of chairs that could be out in the sun. What you don't see even on this diagram, there are large lawn areas with trees and shade that will also be, you go spread a blanket out on if you want to sit in the grass instead of, and Tahoma 31 I think is spec'd as that or an improved equal. So just, we've talked about Tahoma 31 before. Beautiful. But yeah, we think those cabanas will be a great income generator for the operation of the facility. And those will be able to be reserved online.
Awesome. Sounds like we're all.
And Jeremy wasn't sitting at the desk. Lazy River's 4 feet or 3.5? It's 3.5. 3.5, yeah. Same depth as the lazy river at the rec center. Correct?
Okay, so the adults can use it for program potentially, maybe if you
Yeah,
ever need to.
absolutely. Walking against the current is really popular at the rec center, and you could do that outside too as well. So that's it on the kind of the pool design concept. So the next update, Christian, if you wouldn't mind advancing to that next piece. Wanted to give you an update on the request for proposals. The last time we talked with the board, I think the general direction was the best thing we can do at this point is get some firm numbers, and the easiest way to do that is to solicit proposals from contractors. So back in January, we started soliciting proposals. We posted an RFP to our website and then sent it directly to contractors that we'd worked with that do similar work as well. We did receive 4 proposals, and the RFP, our goal, in just the same fashion that we did with the rec center, was to look for contractors based on qualifications. But at the same time, we wanted an opinion of probable cost. And I would consider that a cost estimate, not a bid, because as we've discussed, the plans are still being finalized. But we have a lot, hundreds of pages of available information, geotechnical information, all kinds of stuff for contractors to provide us with some initial cost estimates. Those ranged. There were 2 that were kind of within our construction budget estimate window, and there were 2 that were kind of well outside of that. And we intend to interview all 4 of the firms that submitted proposals this week. That'll give us the opportunity to learn a little bit more about their capabilities and their qualifications, and expand on what they've submitted in their proposals, but also to ask some questions about their opinion and probable cost, get some better context and feedback from them, and dive into that a little bit. To make sure that they understand the project clearly, and to hear their cost-saving ideas. Some of them included those in their proposals, and that was certainly something that we had asked for. And actually, most of the list of things were things that we're already working on anyway, so that was good news. But they didn't use those as like a, hey, we think this project costs this, but only if you do these things. They said, we think the project costs this, and here's how you could save money off of that. So we're really pleased. 3 of those 4 contractors are contractors we've worked very successfully with in the past on park projects. So that's good news. And the 4th seems to be very qualified. So we'll look forward to kind of learning more about them. What's really, I think, from our perspective, we wanted to give you that so you understood where we're at. And then we also wanted to talk to you about timeline. From a next steps perspective, after we interview contractors this week, we, I think, should be prepared to make a recommendation to you to bring a contractor on board moving towards construction of the park. You won't make that decision tonight because we're not prepared to ask you to do that. But we're hoping to be prepared to ask you to do that at your next board meeting on March 10th. In parallel with that, we need to make a decision about both the timeline and the funding of the park. And so I would hope and expect that we're prepared to do that on March 10th as well, at least to give us clear direction about what the board is comfortable with from a timing and cost perspective. If we can indeed build this park within our current proposed budget and based on at least our initial reviews, pending those interviews and making sure that we're all on the same page, I think we can. There's really only 2 options to finance the construction of this park. We do not have enough cash to build it, so we'll either have to issue certificates of participation or bonds. We've talked a lot about that. That decision has a significant impact on timing, and so that's the only reason why there's some accelerated decision making here is, well, it's twofold. One, I think it makes sense for this board to make that decision. You've been working on this project for years as a board, and so I think there's good reason for you to do that. And the other is, if we don't make a decision quickly, we will miss the construction window in order to have the possibility of opening this facility in 2027. At least one contractor kind of clearly stated that was possible. I think the other contractors certainly believe that it is, but we will have to start in early summer of this year. And so that timeline may have an impact on your decision, but it may not. But those are things that you need to consider, and we would like to ask you to consider start thinking about now because we hope to have that conversation at the March 10th meeting.
Okay, so no COP versus bond tonight.
No.
Okay.
I don't think that's necessary tonight. There'll be lots of time to debate that on the 10th. We will provide you with the information about timeline and the ability to move forward with one of those options on the 10th. And you guys will have the opportunity to make that vote.
You asked for some direction though in the packet. What are you looking for direction on?
That you're okay with those next steps. So I'm not going to bring something forward to you on the 10th if that's not the debate or discussion that you want to have on that night. But in order to keep this project moving towards a possible early summer 2026 construction with the goal of opening 2027, we're going to have to make that decision. If the board doesn't feel that that timeline is critical, then that we could wait until 28 to open or later, you don't need to make that decision nearly as fast. Trustee Ayers has.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask you to repeat that again. But so tonight we are deciding whether or not we want to move forward with the project. If we decide that we want to move forward with the project, the only way to do that is either a COP or a bond, which will be the conversation if we vote tonight to move forward next time.
I would like to do that, yes.
I do have some comments.
Trustee Sorcelli, please.
I feel like there's one. It's
Can't get you right, man.
Come on.
It's all good.
I just like saying Sorcelli.
It's I
It
mean,
rolls off his
Yeah,
tongue.
it sounds like sorcery.
I'm Italian too, so it all fits. There's one major missing component to me in the timeline, and I think it could fit into this. And I just want to preface with the fact that if we look at the example of the rec center, it has been a raving success, but the way it came to be was not. And there is still tension and hurt in the community over how. And so I've spent a lot of time thinking of the how we get to this point. And I think regardless if this is bond or COP funded, regardless, I think there's the one component is engagement with the community to get their buy-in. And I would really like us, perhaps, I don't know if it'd be before the COP and bond discussion or after, but to me, I'm willing to move forward with either of those if there's buy-in in the community, general buy-in, and they know about this project and there's excitement. And because the issue with Rec Center was that people didn't feel like they had enough time to have input, didn't know what was coming, and didn't like the expense and the total, and they felt like we were going to fall into a black hole as a town, which didn't happen. And I think if people knew and they had access to all of us outside of this boardroom to ask those questions and go face to face with us, we could really generate not only connection to our community and tell them why this project has come to be, why it's important to the community, explain the funding, answer the questions more directly, and outside of a boardroom, I think we could really alleviate a lot of that tension and pain point that we might have had with that other project. And so I recommend that we have some type of communications firm help us present this to the community in more like community forum settings, like we go into neighborhoods, we meet at the restaurants and breweries and have open dialogue and forum with town staff, with the board, with the mayor, with even enough designers or who wants to be at that table, but enough community contact points outside of this space where people feel like they could come and hear about this and maybe see a short video or a footage of flying over what it's going to be like, and then talk about the financing so they really can ask those hard questions. And it's out, they're not limited to 3 minutes in a tense space. So
I gotcha.
I feel like that's the one thing that's missing from this entire thing being successful. So I think if we're going to make one of the biggest decisions we've made as a board financially, then I really want to make sure we incorporate the community. And maybe the ballot measure isn't the best tactic because it's pretty cold and indirect, and people don't have that opportunity to go face to face, but maybe some community meetings in neighborhoods where we can go direct, I don't know, with HOAs or whoever can facilitate that. It would be a lot more community building opportunity.
When did you want to come back? The 10th?
I think from my perspective, I look at it from twofold. One, it's going to take some time to, even if the board made a decision tonight, it's going to take a couple of months for us to kind of get this whole ball rolling, right? To get under construction, to get financing issued. And there are steps that you can't do tonight even to make that happen, right? The decision on financing needs to be made.
Yeah.
And I think that we all know that. That's other, assuming that the board wants to continue to move forward with construction of this project, we're going to either have to issue bonds or we're going to have to issue COPs. One requires a vote of the public, one does not. I will say, I think I appreciate Trustee Albrecht's point, getting this in front of the citizens, getting their feedback more than we already have. Like we had this project on display at multiple public events this year and got a lot of great feedback about this project, but we haven't had dedicated public meetings about it in years. And so outside of these board meetings, which are certainly open to the public, but we all know that there's not 150 people
And
in
it's
here.
hard when you got a 3-minute limit, like you said. It's just less approachable,
But I think we need to make a decision because there is time pressure if there is a desire to have the pool open in 2027. I also think it makes sense again, from my perspective, the board may not agree, but I think it makes sense for this board to make that decision because you've been working on this project. And making that prior to April is not like a, hey, let's jam this in before the election. It's a, hey, let's let the people that have been working on this and overseeing the development of this project for years make that decision, from my perspective. That might not be the message on Facebook from the public. I don't know how they would respond to that. But I think that's a reasonable choice to make. There was a ballot measure a few years ago that many of you recall that would have restricted the board's ability to issue COPs without a vote, and that measure failed. And so the board has still the legal right to do just that. So with all that in mind, I think it makes sense to try and get this in front of you soon.
On the 10th, what did you say?
I think the 10th is doable.
So that'd be really hard to do outreach.
It would be. That would complicate that scenario. So if the concern is before we make that decision, let's do the outreach, I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. That will delay the project, and that's okay. We don't have to go fast. I think that's a decision that it's tough to weigh, right? Because we know that there's a desire for an outdoor pool. That's part of what's been driving this entire conversation. I mean, even 2 years ago, almost now, one of the reasons why this project became much more kind of forefront was because there was a concern it was going to take too long. We were going to build ball fields first and not a pool for 10 or 15 years. And the feedback we got from Port and the community and others were like, hey, we want a pool now.
Yeah.
We wanted a pool 5 years ago, when we shut down the Old Town Park pool. So, I think that's what's been driving a lot of the timeline. But this board gets to set that timeline for better or for worse.
I think I agree from the standpoint, May, that I think there's sensitivity over, and I wasn't on the board obviously, or didn't live in Berthoud when the rec center came to be, but I think the public has spoke in many ways about this project. And to Trustee Wing's point, this project checks a lot of boxes together instead of individual projects. And I think we see a number, and there's anxiety over that number, but if you were to add up all those as individual projects, we'd be spending the same amount of money, probably, if not more. And we're getting it all in one big bang. And I think we've had a lot of public input, one through the survey and through community engagement. Obviously, when this project comes up, and I have a feeling on Tuesday this room will be full of people in support of it, far more probably than as proponents. Mm-hmm. But again, I think that they've also spoken and said they're tired of waiting. Like, we need an outdoor pool. We need more ballparks. All these things are here. And I think one thing I would like to see is staff to come back with, maybe talk to some other communities, right? We drive through Lebanon, we drive through Longmont, and we see those ball fields packed every single weekend with tournaments. What's the financial impact, not just to those fields being used by our local kids, but what's the financial economic impact to our town, bringing those dollars into our businesses on the weekends to increase more economic development? So I'd like to see that as part of that conversation, because I think it would help shape the board's decision whether we are in favor of a bond issue or a COP, and have that information kind of, even though it's going to be back of the napkin, but at least some basic understanding of what the economic impact of these type of facilities are to a town.
I have a question for Trustee Albrecht. So, just how you would address this. So, you send out a survey, whatever you want to call it, communication to hundreds of people. You're going to get hundreds of different opinions. So, I want 3 diving boards. I want 1. I want this depth. Too many chairs, not enough chairs. I want more grass. I don't think we should have slides. On and on and on and on. You're going to get that. That's human nature. It's going to happen. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with all? Because they've empowered us and voted for us to make some of these tough decisions. And you said the rec center ended up being great. But maybe in that case, if we would have listened to popular opinion, we wouldn't have a rec center today. So I just, we have to be careful because the majority of this board's not even going to be here in 2 months. And so that could change everything to begin with. So, I think it's incumbent on us, I do, to move this thing along. Again, I've experienced analysis paralysis throughout my entire career, and I just would caution us on that.
Well, and I really appreciate the dialogue because, and I appreciate that you guys are hearing what I'm saying, and I wouldn't definitely not recommend we're surveying it or putting it back out for public feedback as much as public buy-in. And so maybe I can adjust my request and say, would it be appropriate to have a PR firm, someone that is highly trained in creating a presentation, a short video to show the scale of the project, where the funding's coming from, positive impacts to the community, and the years of dedicated surveys and research that's going into the project, the teams that have worked on it, the invested community members, that kind of thing. Could there be a short video? Maybe this would appease that need to get the notice out there so people could, if they're really raving mad, they still see it and come in and provide feedback for that meeting. But I think most people, most citizens, once they see it, they're going to feel like this is amazing. I didn't even know this was on the table for Berthoud. And so I really do think once we put it out there, we're going to get a lot of buy-in and excitement. They just want to know we're being sound with our finances. They want to know that we're not doing this flippantly. We know that, but I don't think the community knows that. And so how can we help them see very clearly and transparently where the funding is and where the decision came from? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just think we're on an envelope for timing, and if we do push it back 2, 3, 4 months, which might the way we do things and government does things and getting these videos made, you're going to push it back another year, and again, you're going to have another group of people maybe changing or making the decision. So it's all kind of what we want to do, but if we continue to delay it with, again, I don't think your requests are irrational or anything like that at all. I can certainly hear where you're coming from, but if we delay this for another 2-3 months, we push it back another year. Is that an accurate statement?
I think we push the opening of the pool back to 2028.
Right.
Yeah.
Which a bond would do anyway, right?
A bond will do because we won't have a bond election until later this year, right? And so that would do that either way. And I want to be clear, though, even if you make a decision to issue COPs, we can hit the gas and do what needs to be done. But as we all know, construction can be variable. There can be issues that come up. There is a possibility that we still won't be open in 2027. I still believe it's doable. I think we're going to learn more about that schedule pressure with the contractors when we interview them and really dig into how can you accelerate construction? How can we get this pool open by 2027? Some of them included some broad brush strokes about how we could do that in their proposals, but we want to dig into that and make sure that we're all on the same page. If all 4 contractors said, look, there is no chance that you're going to get this open in 2027, we don't need to rush, right? But I think that there is a possibility that is still doable, and we can target that. It's also possible that the Bay Aquatics facility in Broomfield, which is a similar facility to what we have, went through a major renovation last year, and it opened partway into the summer season. So they didn't open on their traditional starting date. It was only a few weeks in, I think, but those things could be a possibility as well. But we'd be targeting a June 1, 2027 opening date, or maybe even earlier for the pool, and then finishing the ball fields and the rest of the park as we do that. But
I'll reserve my comments on COP versus bond discussion. I do think I agree with going forward and just at least having this discussion. I certainly am reserved about one of them. But just to Mr. Brody's point, Trustee Brody's point, Is there a possibility next couple weeks to get surrounding communities, see if they had an economic analysis? Maybe they don't.
We actually already have one. So we worked with a company called Sports Facilities Management several years ago, but they put together like a best case pro forma scenario for us. It's a little different because they were proposing like 30 some odd tournaments at the facility long term. So there's some scale that doesn't happen right away. But then in addition to that, a lot of the economic benefit, especially from tournament play, comes from hotel stays, and we don't have any hotels. And so there would be a lot of
Longmont or Loveland just to see what their
absolutely.
That might be what
that's easy enough for us to do. And
we've
gotten a lot of good information back from the other aquatics facilities about daily user counts and things to kind of check against our own pro formas. We haven't really dug hard into the tournament space outside of what we did a few years ago with Sports Facilities Management.
I think the pool would help too. So any kind of numbers.
Yeah, no, we have those. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then also this will have the interest rates or an idea of interest rates for both COP versus bump. Great. That was all my questions.
And I think my primary question is, do you want to have that conversation on the 10th? And I think we should. You may not be prepared to decide on the 10th, and that's okay too. But
it'll be a heated one, and I think we certainly all have opinions. We're all passionate, but I do think we've invested this far. I'm speaking out of turn. I do. Go ahead.
I had additional questions. If we are talking about selecting a firm to move forward, I assume on pre-construction services on the 10th. Will we be sending this to bid on completion of CDs, or will we just roll forward with this firm?
No, the expectation is that we would bring that firm on board. Again, our intention was this would be primarily a qualifications-based selection. That's what we did with the rec center as well. And that there, obviously cost is a component. So there is one of the proposals that we received from a firm that we really love that's done fantastic work for the town. Their cost is far above what we think is reasonable for the project, at least in their current opinion. So we'd like to dig into that more with them during the interviews. But no matter how qualified they are, if they are of equal qualification to someone else, and their price is exorbitantly high, at least currently as a cost estimate, we would not recommend that you bring them on board. What we would do is bring them on for pre-construction services to help us finalize the construction drawings, to help us through some value engineering. The contractor brings oftentimes, and this is true at the rec center as well, really good suggestions for how to save costs. I've given you some examples of those in the past where we had sinks spec'd out in the bathroom that were like $80,000, and they said we can build these for you for $8,000. So there are ways for them to bring us some great construction cost savings through that process. As when those plans are far enough along, then we would ask them for a guaranteed max price. You would have to then approve that construction contract for that guaranteed max price. If it was not within our budget, we would have the opportunity to go back out and rebid it and hard bid it. That would slow the whole process down. That would be contrary to what we're attempting to do, but our intent is that whoever we brought on board would be the ultimate constructor of the facility.
But that process would happen whether it went to a bond or a COP or even whatever the mechanism was to finance it. We'd still get bids back or get costing back, and then it would go out for a hard bid solicitation. And if it was out of whack, then we would have to revisit again. So it's part of the process, right? Regardless.
It is. If the board was okay waiting and we weren't trying to push to hit a 2027 target opening, then we could wait, do 100% construction drawings, and do a hard bid. There's no guarantee that we'll get a better price in that scenario. It is possible, and hard bid environments are often a little bit more competitive. And in a hard bid scenario, we have 100% construction plans. Right now, we basically have 100% ball field plans, 60% pool plans, and partial phasing information. And so the cost estimates that the contractors provided are based on incomplete information. It's based on really good information. We have a lot of detail, but it is technically incomplete information. And so we would expect some variability in the ultimate construction cost, but we would we would be bringing somebody on to help us finish these plans with the expectation they're going to build this project within our budget.
So just to clarify this, taking a look at this opinion of cost, what we're ultimately looking at is non-binding handshake agreement with $17 million in difference between the people that have applied. And we're at this stage in the game and we're going to press forward with this. Is that my understanding, without sending this to bid later to achieve this 27 deadline?
Yes, that's exactly what we're describing.
Yeah. And I would say that would be a supreme mistake for the largest purchase in the history of this town.
I appreciate that perspective.
And we're not foregoing anything by tonight, right? That would be a Tuesday conversation.
That would be a Tuesday conversation on the 10th.
I don't want to dive too far into this, but I will just say this tonight because I'll save a lot of my comments for the 10th. It's critical that we do this right rather than fast. Whether I end up agreeing or not on this, it is important that there is accountability, and moving forward with this on the 10th would be a supreme mistake for this town to repeat mistakes of the past, to execute this under this current board. Good ideas don't need to be sold to the people. People should be unanimously with us on this. It truly is right for us. The following board should agree that this is a really good idea. I think we can all take this here. I think there is an opportunity to let go of this imposed 27 deadline. Take it to CDs, which are to be completed in theory around May. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. That gives us time to consider whether we do COP or bond after the fact or not at all. It gives us time to engage with the public, to hold open houses, for the public to actually see what they're getting, because they do not understand what amenities they are getting right now. We don't understand which amenities we're going to get or not. We don't have the price right now or not. This is a handshake and a guesstimate is how I would explain this. That has zero accountability for us as a board on the back end and zero accountability for the townspeople if it's actually $50 million or $30 million. What amenities they're getting or not. It would be a supreme mistake to move this forward. Now, as far as going forward, I think it's worthwhile to have a discussion on the 10th. I think it's worthwhile to conduct the interviews to see where these firms are at, because I would assume they will be the ones bidding at 100% CDs if that's what we so choose. But there is a right way to do this, and it's taking time to explain this and talk with the public and engage with them over the coming weeks and months. That's all I've got.
So could you just clarify that? So are you saying these bids we got for whatever, 42 million, 38 million, you're saying they're garbage? They mean absolutely nothing? They can just do whatever they want based on what Sean's saying?
I don't know if that's what Mayor Pro Tem Murphy's saying or not.
Well, what you saying that it's a handshake and so there's no accountability and so they're not committed to the numbers they give? Could you clarify that?
Yes.
Well, isn't that what I just said in a different way?
Well, it doesn't mean that there's no value to getting these cost guesses.
But someone says 42 and they come in at 65. You're saying it's a handshake and their
Yeah,
bid is
nothing
worthless. It
raised.
sounds like the way you're
This is
implying.
not a bid. It's
Okay.
opinion.
So could you clarify that?
Sure. And this is the same process we went through with the rec center. We did not hard bid that project, and we negotiated a guaranteed maximum price with FCI constructors after we brought them on board. This is not an uncommon process, but it is different than a hard bid environment. I would not expect that the guaranteed max price that we ultimately negotiated with the contractor for the work that we intend to do would be outside of our budget. And if it was, you will ultimately have to approve that regardless. If we brought a contractor on board on the 10th, you would not be authorizing them to construct that project at whatever price they so choose.
So
that decision will have to be made again by the town board.
So is the maximum price legally binding?
Once we get to that guaranteed max price, we sign a contract for that GMP, with the contractor.
So it's not willy-nilly. It's not just out there.
No,
You're
of
saying a maximum price. It's firm. It's hard. I'm just trying to reconcile these two comments.
No, I appreciate this.
Yeah, no, this is a great discussion, and I appreciate
You
the
did confirm
perspective
that this is a
that Mayor
handshake,
Pro
but
Tem.
we're hearing there is a firm number down the line.
So that we're clear, this is an estimate of cost. It was never intended to be a hard bid. It was never intended to be binding. The proposals were not written that way. That said, we also expect the contractor to demonstrate to us that they understand the scope of the project, that they understand the potential costs associated with the scope of the project, which is very well defined at this point. It is not at 100% CD levels, but I would venture to guess that the contractor will tell you they have a very good understanding of what it is we intend to do. We have very good plans and specifications, and we answered a lot of questions from the contractors. That question and answer information is all on our website under the closed bids portion of our website. We post the questions that we received from the contractors and the answers that we provided. All that's there. So I think they have a very solid understanding of what it is we intend to do. We intend to dig into that with them during the interviews to confirm that they do in fact understand what we plan to build and that they do in fact believe that they can deliver that project within the price that they have estimated. But we will not agree to a final price until the plans are 100% done. And in a lot of ways, that will likely benefit the town because what they will be helping us do as we finalize these plans is reduce the cost. And we'll do that through a variety of creative ways, right? We've talked about a lot of those cost-saving potential measures. Some of them they've identified in their proposals. Some of them we've already identified as staff working with the design team, and some we will identify together as we work on completing those plans to 100%.
Okay. Let's put 20 on the agenda. Is there anything? Trustee,
I have a question. I'm in favor of going ahead with the conversation on the 10th. But a couple of clarification points. You had presented the budget to us previously, and it was a rather conservative budget. And can I assume that if through the conversations with any proposed developer, if it is over budget, staff would not recommend that we are able to pay for it?
Yes. We would not bring a recommendation to you that you grossly exceed the budgeted funds.
Makes us go bankrupt?
No. We did propose a conservative number intentionally, and some of that is strategy. I'm okay talking about it in here, but when we published in the RFP what our construction budget for the project was, we've talked about this before, but oftentimes if you say your budget is $42 million, magically most of the bids will be around $42 million. If you say it's 38, most of the bids will find out a way to be around 38. That's not always the case. And again, there's a lot of variability in the opinions of costs that we received. I'm actually expected that variability based on our understanding of the contractors and the work that we've done with them previously and with estimates we've received from them on other projects. Some firms are just more expensive. And there's a whole variety of reasons why that's true, and some are much less. You often, and this is not, I don't mean this disparagingly for the lower cost estimates, but there are things that you get what you pay for, right? And sometimes you pay more for what you get, and sometimes you pay less, and you get a really great deal. All of that is true in the construction world too. But the long and short of it is, I think there's good information about these cost estimates. If we got through the construction drawings, which I believe we should be doing anyway, right? And the board has already authorized us to finish these plans. What we'd be asking this contractor to do would be to come on board now. We'd be paying them at a rate that we would negotiate to help us through this, finalize the design effort with the intent that they're a part of that design team, essentially, providing cost and constructability information to the design team to make it more efficient, to also then potentially expedite. And if we can get a hard guaranteed max price that we believe is within our budget and affordable for the town, we will recommend to you that you approve that. And if it's not, we will not be recommending to you that you approve that. And if we get to the end of that construction drawing process and the contractor says, hey, sorry, I said it was 38, it's actually 45, we would recommend to you that we go out and do a hard bid. So what we're effectively doing at this point, we would be making two decisions. One, to continue to accelerate this project with the goal of a 2027 opening. We'd be doing that. You'd be making a decision to issue COPs, so I don't want there to be any misunderstanding. That's what you would have to do in order to make that happen. And we would be bringing the contractor on board to help us finalize these plans with the intent that they will construct the project, assuming that they're guaranteed max prices within our budget. Does all that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, I mean, I think that's as clear as I can say it.
And so really, these cost estimates, if let's just hypothetical, all these estimates would have come in north of $100 million. We wouldn't even be having this conversation right now because we're not going to build a park for $100 million.
If all 4 cost estimates had come in at $50 million, I would not be having this conversation with you right now.
Just real quick, it's really important to me to be productive in these meetings and to hear the different, opinions and dialogue. And so I feel like with Mayor Pro Tem Murphy, some of the concerns you're bringing up aren't clear to me what they are. And so I really need to hear from you, whether tonight or at our next meeting, what your concerns are, because, I want to know what kind of dialogue we need to have around that. Because for me, I'm hearing frustration, but I'm not hearing what it is other than the comments about the handshake. I think that the deal that, with the proposals is obviously we're getting estimates, and that's a normal process for all municipalities that I've ever been involved in. We get proposals and we have the discussion. It's all open forum. We get to decide at that point. The town hasn't made a decision for us. We get nix it at that moment, right? And so there's nothing happening behind closed doors that isn't coming in public light that we get to decide on. So if there's something that you're implying, I really want to know in this room, because if there's an issue with this project, we need to iron it out. And, I brought up public communication and engagement, but I felt like I got no response for that. And so if you want public engagement, I really would like some dialogue around that as well, and some support, because I do hit a wall with that sometimes, because I'm a communicator and a person who wants to engage the public. And if you think that that's going to be helpful, I really would love some support in that too, of what can we do to make that happen, and what's going to be the most effective without dragging it on. And I'm confused as well, because the Arboretum was expedited by yourself. And so what is different about that for you? And if you want to have this conversation offline, that's fine too. I want those things to be resolved so we can be productive and get those things out your
I'll try and be brief.
And I got to jump in too. No Arboretum discussions tonight. We're way over. We just need to make a decision on the 10th or not. And then after that, I guess the marketing thing, I don't know if anyone's against you on that. I only jumped in there on that because the time frame of getting that done by the 10th with a provider might be hard to do.
Well, and like I said, the scaled down version of even just a PR video with all the information for people to see what's happening, how it's funded, answer every question, like almost like a Q&A type situation, where here's all the questions we could or anticipate receiving. Let's get ahead of the noise. We recently had a project shut down because somebody put misinformation on Facebook, and it shut down a huge project that would have benefited this community for generations. So one PR opportunity missed could send a project spiraling. And I don't want to miss that opportunity because we didn't get ahead of communications. Just in front of it.
I'm good with this coming back on the 10th for further discussion.
Okay.
To your point.
Thank you. Do you really want to hear tonight from Mayor Pro Tem Murphy, or behind the scenes, or you guys want to talk on your own?
I could try and be brief with my
please
issues with this. Just to be brief, the difference between the Arboretum and this project, we are passing it, or we intend to pass that through a traditional bid process. We have 100% completed CDs, so the public knows exactly what they are getting with that. We will get hard bids for that, at least 3 hopefully, and we will have a price for exactly what you are getting. On the Richardson project here, we have a guesstimate from several firms. Doesn't mean that information is valueless, obviously, because they are in the area and that's what they're working on. But it is non-binding, which is a real problem, as opposed to any other estimates. The reason for rushing this, you take a look at some of these responses, and the rush is for the pool amenity, not necessarily the park. I really have doubts about this getting done in 27 currently. I don't see how an extra few weeks would make a difference on this. But there is a proper way to do this, and not sending this to hard bids I think is a serious mistake, because our people in this community deserve to know exactly what amenities they're getting and how much it's going to cost. And right now, if you set 38 million as the hard limit, if this project costs 38 million, great. We get all the amenities that we've laid out. But that's not what these responses have said. They have said we have to make cuts. And there's a difference between cuts and value engineering. Value engineering is a finish change, like a paint color that's cheaper. When you're talking about actual cuts, you're talking about limiting the functionality of the park. When you're cutting out concessions, that would be a cut. Beyond that, there's definitely a lot of benefit to taking this to traditional bid model, where we have hard numbers attached to hard amenities, and we have the time to think about this, to discuss it with the public. Public knows what they're getting or not getting, as opposed to what we're doing right now, which will be pursuing cuts before the public even gets to see this. And they could be substantial if we're looking at a delta between 39 million and 56. If it ends up being 56, those amenities will not get built. They will have to be covered at a future date. And I feel that is extremely dishonest with the public on what they're getting. We can get hard bids for 100% CDs. There's a price, there's amenities. We can talk to the public about that. We cannot tell you what amenities are there or what the price will be right now. And we won't be able to on the 10th. That's the reality. That's my critique.
Senator Kirk.
I appreciate that perspective, and I agree with a lot of what Mayor Pro Tem Murphy said. Not all of it, but a lot of it. There is a possibility that we might have to cut something out of the project. I don't think that's going to be necessary. That's the hopeful side of me. You will not be making a decision to build anything until we know that, so that we're explicitly clear. You will not be making a decision to issue financing until we know that, so that we're explicitly clear. You will give us the legal authority to pursue financing prior to. I have to have that, and we have to go out and do months of financial paperwork and ratings presentations and all. I mean, it's a significant effort to issue financing, whether it's bonds or COPs. It's not like if you make a decision on the 10th, I can't go out and go get $28 million or you name the number in financing a week later. So all of these things will be running in parallel with you ultimately making a decision to finance the project based on a guaranteed maximum price that is within our budget. But I need the authorization to start that work in order to meet these timelines. So again, you're going to make all those decisions. You're going to decide how much we spend. You're going to decide what amenities get built. But there has to be some decisions that occur along that path. Part of the reason why I brought it to you tonight is I don't want to bring it to you on the 10th and say we have a contractor that we think can help us do this project at a price that we can afford. And oh, by the way, I need you to vote to issue COPs so that I can start that process and go down the road. But we will not be issuing COPs until we have a guaranteed maximum price. But we have to do all the work in order to do that prior to. So, a lot of this is just, I also agree with Trustee Murphy. If you don't want to try to accelerate this project with the hopeful goal of opening in 2027, we do not have to rush. We can wait. That is a reasonable decision to make. But I don't want you to make that. I don't want to not bring this information to you and then everybody go, how come Town Administrator Kirk didn't get this project done?
Right, and it could be vice versa. So my thing is on the 10th, a bond would be more in line of a slowing the process down thing, taking a little more time, right?
That's correct.
So there is options on the 10th.
If you choose on the 10th,
Tonight
that you would
isn't really
rather.
like a all or nothing.
My primary goal is to not spring this on you on the 10th. So I want to give you an update on the process, let you know the information that we're continuing to gather. I appreciate the extra requests for information for things like economic impact that you might want to consider on the 10th. If that's a helpful component of that conversation, we'll bring you that information. We have some operating pro formas and expectations for the park that might help you. Those are still in draft form, but I think they're plenty good enough to share, at least as a starting place. So you have a really solid idea of what we think it's going to take to run the aquatics facility and how much revenue it can generate and whether or not it's self-sustaining. So all that can be part of the conversation on the 10th. I don't know that you need to finalize any of that, but if it helps you make the decision, we're happy to provide that information. Yeah. So again, my goal tonight is to keep this process moving forward, to not spring information to you on the 10th with the expectation that you make a decision without knowing that that's what's coming. So you have time to think about it. You have time to hear from your constituents. If that's, a value, we can do some. We have lots of great explanations about the project, the process, the cost, the amenities. We can do some of that PR ahead of time if you want folks to show up at the meeting on the 10th. I'm sure they will if we start publishing information about that on social media, and you can hear more about that before making that decision beyond what we've already heard. We've heard a lot, but we can get more. So again, from my perspective, I don't want to be the bad guy for not having gotten this done fast enough. It's already taken us a very long time to get to this point. And selfishly, I don't want to spring this on you on the 10th, and then you all look at me and go, how come you're asking me to make this decision tonight? So
this is a formal warning.
This is a formal warning for the board and the public that this conversation will come back to you on the 10th with a recommendation from staff about what we think is the best path forward. And we can provide you multiple options and try to make it as clear as we can about what those two options look like. And then hopefully we'll be prepared to make a decision that night. And if not, that's okay too. This is the public process.
It's such a big decision. Maybe it's the only item we have on the agenda that night because there's going to be a lot of discussion around it.
There's a good conversation right there. So do we want to make that a special session, Chris, or do you have anything else crucial that night?
Let me just make it one of two items. I do believe we have some other items that need to be in front of you on the 10th, but I don't know that they will be. Anne's giving me the eye, so hold on just a minute.
I mean, we could do a special session if you really need that in that time frame. We could do 2 that week or something.
That item's going to be all consuming whatever night we do it.
Yeah. Well, that could be a reports discussion here if you want to take some time to look. We can close this agenda item.
We do have a development item on the agenda, and typically we try to keep those to one night. I don't know that that's going to be significantly controversial, but if you don't want to have a development item.
Development, not controversial.
I saw everyone's faces, so yeah. Yes. We can talk about scheduling, but that development conversation needs to happen. So because there's processes that drive that. So maybe if the board prefers to have this as the only item to be discussed at the meeting, then we can look at a different time and date to do that.
Yeah, or max 2, but if it's a development, that might be complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Is it noticed? Is it absolutely required to be that night?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right.
It is.
Okay, we good moving on? Let's bring out some times on the reports. Okay.
The other 2 items that are currently scheduled on the 10th are not that complicated, and both of those could be moved.
Okay.
So it could be just development and Richardson.
That would be great.
That'd be a fun night.
Bring the popcorn. All right.
Bring your caffeine.
Okay, let's move on to
Mayor Karspeck.
Yes. Oh, sure. Go ahead. Please come to the front. State your name and address. Mr. Ryman.
Thanks. Yeah. Make it brief. Lighten things up a little bit. I was hoping this would be my second to last meeting to attend, the 10th being the last. Anyway, a little philosophy.
Do you mind state your name and address real quick?
Bill Heineman, 1191 Blue Agave Court.
Thank you.
So, I have a great-grandson, who's about 2 years old. And I decided to get him started on the right track with a little bit of philosophy. So I sent him a book. It's called The Little Engine That Could. Great book. Maybe many of you have read it. But it's a story about the need to get to a bunch of toys over a mountain at Christmas time to a town. And one town has got the railroad yard and the trains, and the other town has no way to get them. And I just think there's a lot of parallels here. So the first engine, the big engine, the more modern engine, is asked if they can take the toys over the mountain. And they say, no, we're just too big an engine to do that small little job. And then the second engine is asked, well, you're the middle-sized engine. How about you? And they say, well, we got other things to do. We just don't have the time. And finally, there's this little engine called the little blue engine, or maybe the Board of Trustees. And he says, I think I can. And he says it again, I think I can. And so they load up the toys on this little tiny engine, and they start up the mountain, and they go chug and chug and chug, and pretty soon they get to the top, and they coast on down. And there's a whole bunch of very happy kids who get toys for Christmas. Well, I think we're at that point. I've been watching this for 6 months, and the staff's done a wonderful job. You guys have explored this thing endlessly. I've talked to you about what it's like to swim in 3 laps or 3 lanes, and the difficulty of getting a lane, and all the other uses those lanes are used for. And so I would just suggest that you do it. You've got a vote already, if you don't know it. You build a rec center with a two vote majority, something like that. 200,000 scans last year. 200,000. I mean, people came, they used it. So I'm ready to try to stay around for the next few years and swim in 8 lanes, or have at least 8 lanes, 11 lanes, 8 things outdoors. And I'll give you fair warning, if I'm still around, once you get this approved, then my next project is 8 lanes indoor competition pool adjacent to the rec center. All right?
All right.
So thank you very much. Thank you all.
Pass a new tax, I guess. All right. Anyone else? I kind of cut off everyone waiting to speak. No? Okay. Let's move on now to onboarding plan for Board of Trustees. Administrator Kirk?
Thank you, Mayor Karspeck. As we've discussed previously, the desire to have a more formal onboarding process for new trustees was expressed previously, I think first by Trustee Brody, but I think it's been echoed by many of the trustees. I think that's a great suggestion. We put together a plan that was included in your packet, and I don't intend to walk you through it all tonight, but I did want to hear any feedback, if you had any, after reviewing that plan in your packet. Is there anything that you think should be added? Do you think that process looks reasonable? Would it set up future trustees for success with the goal of kind of getting them educated about town activities, town projects, their service, risks associated with town service, all of the things that are outlined there. Is there anything that might be missing from your perspective, or anything that shouldn't be there? And if not, we'll plan to work to schedule these activities after the April election with the new trustees.
I thought it was overall good. I didn't have anything. If we do, could we email you? Is there a deadline to get this to print and stuff, or what?
Not at all.
Yeah.
No, this is primarily an internal document. It'll help guide us as we kind of schedule these activities. So if you have direct feedback, feel free to send it to me via email if you'd like. That's okay too. We'll share that feedback with the rest of the board, and we can talk about that publicly at a future meeting too if there's some significant change. But otherwise, just looking for additional,
Mayor Pro Tem?
and priorities for that future onboarding.
Okay. Thanks. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I've got quite a few comments. So in the interest of time, maybe we just all send our email comments in and have them combined.
Sure.
Is that acceptable?
Yeah, happy to do that.
Does that work for everyone?
Yep.
Okay,
We'll discuss at a later date.
I'd just like to say I appreciate this. I know it's not final by any means. You're going to take some more input from the rest of the board, but like this is the gift that's going to keep on giving to the future boards and the town in general. So just wanted to thank the staff for investing in this, because that's really what you're doing. You're investing in the town from a process standpoint, and it'll pay dividends, I think, in the future for you. So thanks a lot for that.
Thank you for bringing this up too. We're on this because of you. So
Second.
Been brought up several times over several years, and I'm glad we're bringing this home. So this is great. Okay, let's move on to final one is a public hearing, board member compensation. Administrator Kirk, are you going to be heading us out?
I don't think there's much else to discuss. We had a long conversation about it at the last meeting, so if you would like any additional information, we're happy to provide it. But in summary, the ordinance in front of you would increase future board member compensation for any trustee or mayor elected after the April election of this year, and would also give those trustees or mayors access to individual membership. In addition to the increase in pay, with no cap, it's a per meeting cost or per meeting pay of $500 per meeting for the mayor, $350 for the trustees per meeting. No cap on the number of meetings, limitation on what kind of meetings qualify, all outlined in the ordinance. In addition to that, there would be a 3% annual increase in January of each year to that pay until it's changed at a future date.
All right, questions, specifically questions? I'm going to go ahead and open. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, would I apologize because I missed the meeting. Would the increase roll over, or would it go back to the base pay for newly elected officials?
The increase only applies to newly elected officials after April. So,
no, I mean, so if you said there's a yearly increase,
3%.
Oh yeah,
3%.
Beginning
Is that
it would
continue
only apply to
that
those
term?
trustees or mayors elected after April of this year.
No,
It continues year to year.
Annually.
Annual.
So say it increases 3% times 4, the next person to fill that seat or gets reelected would then be 3% on top of that, or would they roll back to the original?
No, that the compensation is independent of who fills the seat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions? Good one.
Yeah. Good
Okay.
question.
This
Sorry,
time
I
I'll open up to the public. Anyone in the audience wishes to speak to this? No, you don't. You want a cap? All right. All right. I'll bring it. Thank you. Bring it back to the board for deliberation. Are we all good on this?
Good.
Thanks for bringing this up. I think, yeah, this is awesome. This will help a lot of you guys out. Okay. Anyone like to move?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, please.
Move to approve the ordinance 1377, an ordinance of the town of Berthoud setting compensation for town and Berthoud elected officials.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Trustee Wing has moved it on this. Trustee Brody has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Wing?
Yes.
Trustee Hardy?
Yes.
Trustee Ayers?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy?
Abstain.
Trustee Albrecht?
Yes.
Trustee Brody?
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck?
Yes. Excellent. Well, that concludes our regular meeting tonight. Let's move on to reports. We'll start off with Trustee Hardy.
Nothing to report tonight.
Okay. Trustee Brody.
I had burritos with the water department last Thursday, like 45 minutes. It was great. Just sat around, learned a little bit about each of the folks there at the table and at the water building over there in Northern Water, and just had a great time. So it was really cool to get to meet those folks. They were super appreciative, and I think that's nice for them to hear positive reinforcement, because a lot of times when you interface with the public, it's not always positive. And so yeah, they really appreciate it. So
That's awesome.
Keep that going with the other departments.
Are you picking up the tab on this?
Yeah. Plus, I get to buy myself a burrito. So
Well, I'm saying this seems like something that
No.
should be formalized.
Nope.
No, I'm serious.
Totally.
Otherwise, how would this continue if an individual trustee is paying for it? I think it should be picked up by the town.
maybe it's a little corporate shaming on my behalf. So,
All right.
you guys. So
Well, I'd love to keep that going, but I can't personally pick up tabs for departments. But I do think there's room for having the town kind of pick up, like, so we can get to know each individual department a little bit more.
I guess I got a question too. Is like I don't want it to just. I'd love other trustees to come along, but I'm just looking at it from a public meeting standpoint, like, is that an environment, is there a limit to the number of trustees that can go? Two, okay. So we need to create a sign-up sheet then, folks, so if that's what you want to do, all right?
Yeah, or a public meeting
All right.
at 7 a.m. to see who shows up.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. We'll know about you, but yeah, we'll see, right? So, okay.
Cool. That was a great idea. Thank you for doing that. Trustee Ayers.
Port Committee had their CIRSA training and their onboarding process last month. They were all very appreciative. So if this is going on with all of the committees, I think it's going to sort of add a lot of organization to the previously more random nature of some of the committees. So they were all appreciative of that.
Oh, great.
And this is a question probably for Mayor Pro Tem. It's not raining and it's not snowing. Is there going to be a problem with the tree committee, et cetera, moving forward? And Administrator Kirk, is there foreseeing any sort of major issues with the town trees moving forward with our issues this winter?
About with no moisture.
Just no wet, just no precipitation.
You're talking just stress in general?
Yeah, especially with the cost share program starting, that sort of thing.
As far as I know, I haven't heard of any serious issues. You've got to step up watering, but it's not anything serious at this point, from my understanding. Is that correct?
Our forestry team already hand waters or winter waters newly planted trees. Well established trees should survive fine, hopefully. If not, it's going to be a lot bigger problem than just the town's trees. But yeah, we do hand winter water newly planted trees already. So I don't think we're too worried about that. I know from a overall water standpoint, just talked to Alex Tennant, our water resources manager, who you guys met at your last meeting. And generally speaking, we feel pretty confident we're going to be okay from a water standpoint this year. But a lot of that is weather dependent, of course. Even with a reduced snowpack, we have a robust portfolio for a reason, so that we can make adjustments and utilize stored water resources to provide water. But if that drought continues year after year after year, that's a whole different conversation. Yeah, but if it starts raining hard in May and it rains in May and June and July like it did a couple years ago, we won't need a lot of water. So
thank you. That's it.
Tough though, yeah. Trustee Albrecht. Got it right.
Next, I'm gonna get a attendance crisis.
Give me some stickers. I'm so motivated by stickers.
For Will, yeah.
Just start by going by May, or just a letter like Prince. We had a youth advisory commission meeting, and we're kind of struggling with attendance, and I think there's a variety of reasons. And so they're pivoting and having a study session and discussing goals and how to get engagement, and really trying to initiate the chair to have some hold his peers accountable and stuff like that, and kind of train them on how to step up and also how to generate excitement over what they're doing. So we're working on that. We're also working on pivoting from DC, since the slots filled up, to a possible attendance to the Nashville conference, which sounds like the same conference, just more localized and scaled down. So it might even be more productive for them and effective. So they're kind of excited about that discussion. They would be signing up very soon for that as well. So we'll see, this first year, if we could get them into something that would be very beneficial. And then the only other thing I was going to bring up was just to see if we were still working at the staff level on something like a state of the city, I think is what you called it, just to review of all the amazing things that have been done. I know we're already getting into March territory, and I'd love to see what positive things we're coming up with. So just wanted to bring that back to make sure that that's on the horizon, and we'll see that at some point.
I just reviewed that final draft today, so we're excited to show that to you at your next meeting. Should be ready to go, and it'll be easily accessible for the public. It's designed to be very user friendly as a kind of a presentation format. But I think it'll be great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Done. Yeah, that's for me.
Great. Trustee Wayne.
Yeah, I went to just a couple weeks ago. Went to the new farmstead, new homes that are opening up. And there's several hundred of them that's going in. It's right off Mountain Avenue 56, and really they they did the ribbon cutting for us. There was no other dignitaries there. I went, and a great group of people, really excited about what they're doing. It was good, and I'm just wondering, in the future, if we could be proactive. And they're spending millions of dollars on that. And I just wonder if there's a way we could say, hey, one of us is going to go or two of us are going to go, just to represent the town. And maybe you guys can help us out with that. If you get the communication that it's coming, but maybe we can just say, hey, even if it's an email, who can make this? Because I think it might have been embarrassing if we had no one there and they did the ribbon cutting for the town. And
no, that's fair. I mean, that happened to the chief at you're right, the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
And flew past us and no one was there. And yeah, we
if we spread the wealth, and again, I already know a lot of you already do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Mayor, you're at so much stuff.
Well, no, but it also is kind of the role. I mean, I should have been there.
No, that wasn't at you. It wasn't at anybody, to be honest with you. I just think it is sort of an unwritten obligation that we support things like that. So I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm just saying in the future, perhaps we can have a little communication or dialogue.
Yeah, you're right.
And again, we'll spread the wealth, and one of us, even if one of us goes, that's probably enough for a number of these things. So anyhow, and then I think it was today. I was at Loveland today, old Loveland, and what they've done with that old Loveland, what they've done with hand pavers, and they've created, like, in the stones, they've created like mountain views and all new sewer pipes going through.
Downtown Loveland?
Yeah, and it's really sharp what they're doing. So it just might be, if you get an opportunity, just take a look. I think maybe we could take a page out of their book a little bit, because they're really going to make that just an absolutely beautiful area. Flower pots are being planted, and they've done the whatever they're called, the kickouts at each intersection. But it's cool. And they're investing. I mean, it's a lot of money that they've done. So anyhow,
I'm jealous of something Loveland's doing for once. It's been a little bit, but that project is so gorgeous and so pedestrian friendly. It feels.
Oh, is that what you're saying? You've seen?
Oh, it's so.
Yeah.
We were just down there, and it was.
I want to go there.
They really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it was a big commitment, and they did blocks and blocks and blocks of it. Right, it's that whole area. So anyhow, that's all I have.
That's great. These are great points. Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, we had tree advisory committee last night. We had some discussion on the new tree strip legislation. Had a little bit on the arboretum situation. And then we really got into 2026 goals. A lot of those revolve around the Arbor Day Growth Award. We're looking to expand on what we can actually do for that. Some of that is educational and stuff. Certainly benefited if we have the Arboretum, but I think we're really interested as a committee on pursuing just more educational opportunities, and Forrester Furnace opened himself up to that. Beyond that, we're gearing up for the poster contest this spring. Paul has already contacted both Ivy Stockwell and Berthoud Elementary, so we'll be pursuing that. And then Arbor Day is coming up in April. We are gearing up for that.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, it's April. Okay,
yeah. Let's see here. It's April 25th, I believe, right now. And they're kicking around 2 locations, but it's likely to be at kind of that, Nielsen Greenway connector to Town Park and stuff. That's kind of our priority location. We're talking 7 to 8 trees. If we can make that work with the school district, it's a little fuzzy on who owns which part of that sidewalk easement. But we're figuring that out. As for trees around town, Trustee Ayers, I hadn't heard anything about any stress other than the normal kind of thing going on. Obviously, any of their trees that they've got to go out and hand water, they're trying to manage and kind of reduce the number that they're having to go the distance for and stuff. Lights are down. They've been doing some tree trimming around town. They had some visibility clearing on North 1st Street. And then spring pots have been started, and the winter pots have been taken out, so those should be showing up pretty soon. They're already looking good, but That's all I've got right now.
Great.
Mayor, I have one other thing. If I could, I'm sorry. Thank you. I just want to get some feedback on this. We've discussed it before, but the town went to the trouble of putting timelines for each agenda item. For the raft and bats, they put 15 minutes, and we were over an hour and a half.
Right.
I'm willing to wear the black hat on that and speak up when we've gone way over on something. I just don't want to offend anybody or
No,
any
you
to be
wouldn't.
surprised. But any comment on that?
Comment is that I don't think all of my, so at least with the Richardson, I wanted that to be doubled. I don't know if that would have helped
Sure.
anything. I think all these need to be expanded. So I think after Chris, Sean and I meet, I think maybe then I meet with Christian, or we all do, and get accurate times, because I don't
Okay.
think any of these were, well, some of them turned out to be accurate, but so often they're over, and that's frustrating for everyone involved. So
And again, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I think we can all live with that. But when something literally runs an hour over, and maybe some of the stuff is just getting regurgitated,
Right.
there's an opportunity for us to go, let's move on, especially, or let's take a vote, or let's bring it back.
And you can tell right now with that Richardson, I tried to do that, and I always come off bad when you do, but I'm
That's
trying
tough.
my best to do that. Yeah.
I'd be okay with that. However, I think that's also going to cause in certain conversations, the necessity to table something and add it to the agenda for the next meeting.
Yep.
Because if
So we would have to tell Ruth to come back or something.
right,
Yeah.
and so I guess that would depend on the presenter, but it would also depend on, hey, are we willing to just go ahead and stop the conversation and have a vote now for something that we need to vote for?
Treat it like our 9 o'clock
It's a courageous decision.
Or
There's
for,
no
like
doubt.
an informational meeting, it's like, okay, well, you're done. We were having this conversation moving forward. Or, hey, sorry, we're going to have to come back in 2 weeks and add this to the agenda. So that's just going to be, it's going to snowball effect down the road. I'm okay with that, because I agree that sometimes we just kind of go over a lot more than the designated time. But sometimes we need to have things come to a close in an organic way.
And I think there are some other ways that we can do that without, we could just take the times off the agenda. That's not really helpful.
No, it's not.
But the estimate of time is I think we can all agree is a wag, right? I mean, I have no idea how long a lot of these discussions take.
But if someone's got a 45-minute presentation, we've given them 5 minutes, I think we owe it to them to say, you have 5 minutes and not 45.
And that's got to be communicated with them early. So
Yeah,
we told Ruth, you only have 15 minutes,
exactly.
cover what we can, and the board's got 25.
Exactly.
Well, I was going to say that we need to have a discussion with the presenters on timing and what their expectation is too, because we can't just plug them into our time frame.
We were 25 minutes ahead, like 5 items in. We were just crushing it. And then, bam, we decided to talk about RAF for 2 hours.
That brought us back. Well, that was only an hour. It brought us back then.
I think that's the give and take.
We do that in the MPO, right? We do speed some up and some get slowed down, but as long as the time kind of ends up.
I think that by structuring those presentations, I think there are ways to kind of cap some of the timeline for that discussion.
That's all I'm asking.
We can try to give you more information in your packets so that maybe there's less need for as much discussion. I don't know if that's helpful.
I think we should do
Kendra and I already talked about it a little bit during the meeting. I think she's got some really good suggestions too. So we'll bring you back some ideas.
We're at our time cap for this topic.
Imagine this happened on the 10th when we say, all right, everyone come back. Yeah.
Well, and
Okay.
as a reminder, I brought this up the day I got sworn in, because the meetings were going very late, like midnight, 1 a.m. And the goal is to honor everyone's time, staff, the presenter, the public, so they can be engaged, so we can not make decisions at midnight that are horrible for the future. Yeah, so there really is, to honor that time is really critical, but I also know we're making decisions and asking questions in real time with public comment and feedback in real time. So there is going to be unexpected. I think what we can do is train ourselves and our future boards that if we expect 3 minutes from the public, then we should really try to rein in our comments and make sure we're honoring that time frame too. And we're not, and I'm just as guilty as anyone else, but that's where we hold ourselves accountable to that too, so we can have a good timely meeting. But I don't want to live by.
No, there's always exceptions and anomalies, but I think we need to have, as a rule, we really try to stick by things. And if it's earth-shattering, critical emergency, absolutely, we just have to continue on. But if it's something that we all have a flavor, I think,
Yeah, I
for
get you.
what's legit and what's not.
And please feel free to speak up too. So if you're like,
Yeah, I will.
do it.
I just was too late into it on that one.
Well, it'd be a tough one to do. So.
I just had one more thing on. A few of us, Administrator Kirk, the town had a couple of tables at the Chamber Gala, and I thought it was a great event. Like really nice, really well done. I gave kudos to the new executive director. Like her first year in, she did a fantastic job. I thought the event was timed out perfect. Cool. We got out of there at a reasonable hour, and everybody was well fed and well watered, and it worked out great. I thought so. I think they did a great job.
Anything else? Yeah. Thank you. I was bringing up the chamber, and I totally agree. The timing on that was awesome. I think they did a fantastic job. Mr. Trustee Brody, I am so in favor of you. I didn't want to come off negative about you doing burritos at all.
Okay, no worries. No.
Right, cool. I just can't afford to do it on my own.
No problem.
I don't know how that tradition continue, but I'll join you for sure.
Yep.
It's a great idea to meet with staff. Chris and I met with Excel about the public safety power shutoff, or Excel in general, last week. No plans on them. Actually, it's just the issue seems so massive to tackle. They're just saying expect this to continue, and unfortunately, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was pretty explicit that Berthoud might be getting hit one of the hardest going forward. So they're actually going to be making improvements to the grid in the Denver metro area. So going forward with these PSPSs, it might just be more northern Colorado, Berthoud, Loveland areas, and Fort Collins focused. So kind of frustrating news. He did lay out, that they are investing billions into the project, but I think the overall theme of that was they're not backing off on this.
Maybe they should take a few $100,000 and put generators in for our businesses, and then they can shut it off whenever they want.
Chris brought up some great points about businesses that invested thousands upon thousands on this, and Hayes took a huge hit, and really frustrating on them. They are opening up grants for folks that have medical needs to have medical equipment,
battery backup.
So basically, you get a power wall through Tesla or through them for these PSPSs. But yeah, nothing for restaurants or general public right now.
What about exceptions for fire retardant landscaping?
Exceptions for fire? What do you mean?
Unfortunately, there's no way to, much like a water line, right? Like we can't shut off water to just one house.
Right.
Well, no. We can't shut off water to an entire street except one house, right? Mm-hmm. We can shut off water to one house, but we can't shut off water to the whole street, but leave one house on. And so that's, yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. If you're doing good, you should be able to have, yeah. Unfortunately, these problems can be caused up by Bellevue, and they affect us. So it's just, the whole thing's just so.
One thing to note on that power shut off, the folks at Grace Place went to the local businesses because a lot of the people that work at those businesses, they closed them and they didn't get paid.
Yeah.
So Grace Place threw some money into the community and helped to try to at least take the sting out of some of those.
It was unbelievable.
Hourly employees,
really
yeah.
Cool.
Great gifting from that community.
Yeah, it was insane. I think that's great. That ought to be advertised more. Thank you. Let's see here. I think I'm missing here. PSPS, Chamber, burritos.
Mayor Kirschman.
Oh, meeting with Chiefs went pretty well last week. I think we had an excited individual, but man, I'm so great we have the sheriff's office in that case where they can step in there and boot people out of the room that don't have any clear intent to be Berthoud citizens or anything Berthoud related, but just want to make a ruckus. So thank you, Chief.
What was the forum? What are you talking about?
It's a meeting with the chiefs and the mayor, so we were just.
Oh, and then you got somebody who got excited.
Yeah, I gave a heads up. He's kind of a known guy, but he had a problem with Boyd. He's probably listening right now. He's going after me on Facebook right now. But he's a homeless man at Boyd Lake and getting kicked out of there. But just decided that his hill to die on isn't Berthoud, and made it so. That's all I have. And thank you for a great meeting. So I'll turn it over to staff.
The only thing I was going to bring up on Mayor Karspek, you may have more information about this, but I know that the North Front Range MPO wanted to submit a grant to the Air Quality Enterprise to host a conference.
Like a region? Well, it's actually a national conference, I believe.
Yeah. A West Regional Conference focused on the elevated ground level ozones in Denver, Phoenix, Salt Lake City, and Las Vegas. They're looking for a letter of support from the town. They asked the mayor for one. I think it's totally appropriate to submit a letter of support for their grant application. It's not binding for us, but just that we think that them hosting this regional conference would be a good idea. So if you guys
It's
are okay
free.
with that, we'll prepare that.
I mean, we don't have to commit any money.
Yeah, we're not committing any
Yeah.
funding or anything. It's just supporting their application for a grant to host this conference.
Is that cool? All right, great.
That's it for me.
That's it. Do you have anything about the timing for a special session by chance, or do you want to get back to us on an email? Or
I honestly haven't thought about it since we stopped talking about it a few minutes ago.
because we're bugging you with questions the whole time. All right, council.
Nothing for me.
All right, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
That's
Thanks
incredible.
for
you're
having
here.
me.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Chief. Anything?
Thank you for the opportunity to present that.
You got 3 minutes, Chief.
Thank you.
Oh, we're out. Sorry. Come back next time.
That was great.
Yeah. No, that was awesome. Yeah, and we're coming back with more, right? Well, at least that's what we talked about for. Well, okay. I think we're having another one for Mr. Mosley.
He already had his presented.
All right, I think we should. All right. Well, all right. Okay. Anything else? I'll go.